As the leader of the Booner Pack, I lead from the front.
All right, boys. Lock in.
It's our core foundation, man. Grit.
I'm fired up. I'm fired the fuck up, boys.
It's pumping right now. It's got my juices pumping, boys.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Crunch Time Sports with Jeff, Booner, Lukas, and Gentry. It is Tuesday, October 8th. Look, I got the 8th. This is limited edition now. Hey, what we made for the Tigers?
Yeah, it is limited edition.
We can't sell it because it's got the Tiger. It's got the Detroit Sports. But it's okay, the English D. But it's fine. You know what? Get your merchandise, Official CT Sports. A lot to get to today. We're having Chris Castellani on. Talk some Detroit Tigers with him.
Let's go.
You know, Robert Saleh fired today. We're gonna talk about him. The time there was a point in time where the Lions had a chance at hiring Robert Saleh, and a lot of people wanted Robert Saleh as the head coach of the Detroit Lions. We'll talk about that. I've heard Robert Saleh next defensive coordinator for the Lions. Huh? Come on,
let's move on.
I've heard it all today. We'll get to that at 8:15. But fellas, how we doing?
Feel good. Tuesday, not hump day, but good Tuesday. I've had a good day today. Just ate some dinner. Feeling good, ready to roll, ready for a good show.
On the verge of hump day. Too. Very fine Tuesday. Nice weather again. Nice. We thank God. Shout out to those in the hurricane. Hope they're doing well. We don't have to deal with any of that, so we're able to chill here, relax. A very fine Tuesday, fellas. Talk some sports. Can't wait. Talk some ball. It's
a good day to talk some ball. That's all I'm
facts. saying. Hockey kicked off today too, boys. The official first day. Had some hockey games on throughout the day, and then we got the Tigers tomorrow. Thursday night football. Just great week.
It's a big week in Detroit, to be honest. I saw actually we could pull it up, to be honest. Let me see. I'm gonna pull this up. Honolulu Blues tweeted it out. I didn't realize it until like today. Let me scroll, Boone. Keep scrolling. Hold on. All right, I'm here.
We're holding, Boone. Don't worry.
Yeah, we're holding, Boone. We got you. What do you got?
Hold on.
Pressure's on.
Yeah, look at the pressure's on.
Hold on. All right, here we go. Someone put it on screen. Put it on screen for me.
All right, let's see. What is this? Oh,
the schedule for the week. This week on October in the D. Tuesday, tonight, going on right now. The Pistons are actually playing the Phoenix Suns at the Breslin Center. I don't know if you guys saw Devin Booker actually rocking. Like Devin Booker was sitting there rocking Michigan State gear. Wednesday, Tigers play tomorrow at 3:00 and Comerica Park. Thursday, Tigers at 6. Update: the Detroit Red Wings, fellas. The Wings, they changed their time to 8:00. They switched their time to 8:00. Friday, Pistons preseason game 10. Saturday, Tigers again, potentially, if they don't
lock in.
Saturday, Wings at 7. Sunday, Lions 4:25. Pistons at 8:30. So, hey, boys, we're good to go. We're ready to roll.
I mean, lock into some preseason. I mean, come on, huh?
Only you fucking sicko. A's rocking Pistons fan.
I was at my little brother's football game, which was great. It's fun watching. It's like middle school football, like tackle football. It's always fun, man.
It's always crazy too to like see that 8th grader that looks like he's in 11th grade. And then the kids who still look like they're in 6th grade, and the kid who looks like they're in 6th grade get lit up every time.
Yep.
They don't. Hey, those are the junkyard dogs, though.
Yeah, they are. There was one kid who caught a touchdown, had an interception, and then had a punt return. So I was like, that guy's going pro.
Last name Klotz?
No, I don't. He may or may not have been from Toledo. I don't know. He could be from the area. He's quite the athlete. I don't know.
Big if true.
I could have had to have asked. On my way home, I was listening to the Neil Rule on the call. Neil Rule on the call. He's like Jalen Duran. I love Neil. He's so good at it too, man. Shout out to Neil.
Yeah,
Neil's a great job.
That
great voice
during the March Madness with Neil on the call was great to listen to.
Of course.
He's gotta take over for George.
I wish he called some of my games. Yeah, he would have said of course a lot. six or 7 times a game.
Of
course, Booner again.
Booner deep.
Booner from downtown.
Or Jack Golke, you know.
Hey, only the real ones do know the original Jack Golke, Travis Bader, one of the best shooters of all time in college basketball history.
Travis Bader. That's your player comp.
He played at Oakland. He was the one that got me into basketball when I was like in middle school. He was playing. And hey, shout out the boys. Shout out Mitchie B. All of them, all those fellas over there used to play at Oakland. Mitchie B was like, yeah, I love Mitchie.
Hey, just shout out Mitchie B.
Hey, Mitchie B though.
One of my best friends in college. He played at Oakland with Travis and then went to Saginaw Valley with me, transferred over. Travis Bader's an absolute dog, though. You want me to pull some of him up? I could pull him. Dude, this guy, just look him up. If you don't know who he is, look him up. He's like one of the all-time – when he was playing, he broke the record for most threes in college basketball history. And then obviously, like recently, some other guys have changed. Dude, he broke like J.J. Redick's record.
Sound like a jag to me.
Dude, what? He played for Campy, dude. Travis Bader was a dog. I can't believe no one in the chat knows who Travis Bader is.
I think
he's a legend.
The name sounds familiar, but I think it's literally from you. Like
from where?
I'm looking him up.
Look at dude, he is literally a legend.
I've heard you talk about him before. You've been consistent with this take. This is a Booner narrative that has always been consistent.
Let me look up list of Division I all-time leaders. Now it's Antoine Davis from Detroit Mercy.
Yeah.
Darius McGee from, I don't know if you guys know, from Liberty. He's an absolute dog. That was in 2018. Max Amos from Oral Roberts. I don't know if you guys remember that run that Oral Roberts went on. Fletcher McGee. I don't know if you guys remember Fletcher McGee from Wofford in 2019, absolute dog. And then it's Travis Bader, which at the time in 2014, Travis Bader broke the record. He did break the record. It was J.J. Redick's record at the time.
Oh my!
I'm seeing here, Boone. He's a coach for the Brooklyn Nets.
He's an assistant coach for the Brooklyn Nets.
Yeah,
he is indeed.
Did you say that already? Sorry,
I did not. No, but I knew that. Right. Travis is a good dude. Great guy. Great person.
Well, like you said, Gentry, got some hockey starting up, right? The Red Wings, huh? How we feeling? How we feeling, Gentry, about it all, huh? We're gonna start this thing.
I'm pretty confident in them. Obviously, it's going to be a big day Thursday, and they will obviously kind of get overshadowed by the Tigers. But nonetheless, it's going to be an exciting week. I'm excited to see how the team goes. I still think as we go on, there will be some changes to the roster. So obviously, you've seen the roster drop or the lineup drop rather earlier today or yesterday rather. There still will be some changes to that. I don't think it's final whatsoever. I don't think they're going to have 3 goalies the whole year. I still think a couple of defensemen will be juggled around, but I'm interested to see. I'm excited to see Kane out there, Tarasenko. I'm excited to see Dylan back out there. And obviously Mo and Lukas got paid. So those guys are going to come out firing and be ready to go. So it's exciting night.
So Hockey Town's back? Is that what we're saying?
What about the young fella? Where's the young fella at, Unc? Is Marco playing?
He'll be up. He'll be up.
Give me Marco.
No, I'm confident. Marco, I know I am actually very disappointed he didn't make the team off rip, but there's so much going on with the defensemen. And then, like I said, you have 3 goalies. That's the only reason why. But he'll be up sooner rather than later. He was definitely the Red Wings' best player throughout the preseason. Obviously, he's seen some more ice time, obviously, than the veterans and whatnot. But I strongly believe he will be punched in on that 3rd or 4th line before we know it. So, and we know as far as the Red Wings go, how injuries can derail your season. So to have a few guys like him in Carter, Missouri and Grand Rapids just waiting to come up is always a good thing.
Man, you make it sound like it's such a good thing. Like it's nice. Like he got moved down. I think it is. It's probably not. Probably want him up here Thursday. Can I just throw a flyer out there? Just throw something out there.
Yeah, throw a flyer. What do you got?
I just want to see. I get a feel for the room here with the fellas, maybe the chat. Hey, what do you boys think about maybe? We don't have to go to a game. We'll get down in Detroit on Thursday.
On Thursday?
Thursday night. Maybe we go out there and see the people, meet some people, shake hands.
Shake hands.
The Tigers play at 6 and the Wings are at 8. I know we have a show, but like if the people in the chat are like, "Hey, we're gonna be down there," the boys like, "Hey, maybe we I don't know." I'm throwing a flyer out there because it's like the biggest night in Detroit that we've had probably outside of the Lions.
But I'll try.
I'm just throwing an idea out there where it's like
throwing a flyer.
Everyone in Detroit's going to be watching both of those games or downtown. How much production on the show? Maybe this is a conversation I probably should have brought up off air.
Discussing it with the chat.
But I just want to get a feel for the chat. Like, if you guys are gonna be watching the game and we're down there, we can go down there, put content out, and get some videos, and we could watch the Tigers game from outside the stadium if we have to, dude. I don't know. I'm just, I'm just throwing flyers out there. I just want to see get a feel for it.
Let me throw another flyer out there, and this is Mike's idea. Great idea. Saturday, if there's a game 5. We're doing a watch party. That's what
for sure.
We're doing a watch party. We haven't done a Tigers one. We thought about it, but game 5 on Saturday, you kidding me? We'll be doing a watch party. So I wouldn't mind it, Boone. I appreciate it.
I'm just asking. We could talk about it off air, and then tomorrow we have the show. So maybe we can tell the people what we would do. But I just wanted to throw it out there, like, just get out on the streets, go see the people. That's all. Big doubleheader. One of the biggest doubleheaders we'll ever see.
Mm-hmm.
Boone, I'm doubleheadering it. I'm doing it, Boone.
Whoa. I know you're there, and then
I bought my Tigers tickets today, and obviously I'm going to the Red Wings game, so I'm going to both, Boone.
Should we? I mean, can you talk to people in LCA on the people that and say, hey, we need a couple tickets for the boys, maybe we'll, like press passes for the boys? I don't know how these things work. I'm just like, hey, maybe we do a crunch time meet and greet somewhere on Thursday. I don't know. I would love to meet some people. Maybe I'll walk around with some Tigers colors Kool-Aid on Thursday. That's all.
Boone, that's a great Boone. Either way for the watch party, fantastic idea. Orange Kool-Aid.
I'm just throwing ideas out there. Mine's working.
It's not going to get to Saturday, though,
on the wheel. The hamster is on the wheel.
Yeah, you guys know how my mind works too. My mind really gets going. I think of something, the thing gets moving a little bit.
Hey, Ryan Lentz is asking for his drink, Mike. You owed him for about a year now.
Oh, no.
Yeah, you know what, Jeff? You didn't have to put that up. You know how that situation boils down. I used to buy Ryan drinks, breakfast, anything. Never got anything in return.
You were coming at me about the pizza. I was taking too long with the pizza. It's been a year for this drink. What are we doing here?
Hey, shout out Champy, man. Champy says Cardinals fan checking in. Lions still looking good. Hey, Champy.
Shout out Champy. Appreciate you tuning in, man.
This weekend, big W for the Lions too.
Cardinals.
We appreciate you, Champy, for beating the 49ers. We appreciate you, Champy. Shout out Ryan Lentz, man. Absolute go.
Yeah, Lentz.
I'm with you, Mike. It would give him some Red Bull. I never really got Red Bull back from him. I'm gonna be honest with you. Maybe I got once. I'm gonna give him one. But
I bought Lentz like 20 meals. Never got a meal back.
What a scumbag, honestly.
That's crazy.
Him with breakfast.
Watch your tone. You
understand? Say thank you.
It's crazy, man.
Hey, fellas. I mean,
I did real quick too. Lentz. This might be a corrupt thing that I did. Not in the league that we're all in. It's not that one. It's a different league that Lentz is in. He joined with some of my friends from high school and college. And
I'm in that league, Boone.
Oh, you are? Okay, so you're going to figure out this corrupt situation I did. Lentz had Anthony Richardson, and around 11 o'clock in the morning on Sunday, he dropped Anthony Richardson and picked up Joe Flacco because AR was out or something like that. He dropped someone to get Joe Flacco, and he texted me at like 1:30, 1:15 and said, hey, Boone, I forgot to switch it. And he was projected to lose. And I went, got you, brother. And I went and switched it for him as the GM, as it was the manager, the league manager, and he ended up, I think, winning. Is that a bad move?
No.
Yep, wouldn't allow that.
I don't know, dude. It was like obvious that like he didn't make the move and he just forgot to switch it. So I was like, you obviously picked up, like, you're not just going to pick Joe Flacco up just for Joe Flacco. Like, it was obvious he did it.
You were just helping a friend. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's all.
Fair. Good guy.
Thank you.
Riveting.
Thank you. That's the last time I tell a story on this show.
Hey, Boone, great story.
Did you guys see Devin White got cut from the Eagles?
Oh,
Devin White, former high draft pick, Klotzy. That's your guy. I don't know why he's still your guy. He's washed.
I just have a question for you.
What's up, Boone?
You know him a lot more than I do. You've probably seen him play a lot more than me. Maybe he could take over the Derek Barnes spot. Can he play Sam? I'm just asking. I don't know where his spot is.
Here's the thing. Devin White is no longer Devin White. But Devin White is still a guy who won a Super Bowl. He's a guy that played with Carlton Davis in the past, so I like that. I know they're not going to impact each other much, but the chemistry's there. They can pick up the chemistry there. They're like, Carlton can be like, hey, this is what Devin's going to do. But I don't think he's a guy that is going to be starting, but off a rotation. And this is no disrespect. I don't want it to sound like that, but I'd rather have Devin White out in the field over Jalen Reed-Maven on big plays just because he's a guy that's done that. And Booner, to your point, he can play the Sam. He's not going to be going after the quarterback and getting sacked. They talk about being able to hang with tight ends, good against the run. The whole thing with Devin White is he used to be great pass coverage, and he's not like that anymore. The injuries kind of caught up to him, but he knows how to put himself in positions from time to time. And I think when you look at being in the playoffs and teams like that, you're going to be playing against even the Minnesota Vikings and the Green Bay Packers and games like that, it does not hurt to have a guy like Devin White on your football team. So I think as far as a depth piece, Devin White's perfect. As far as a starter, I don't like it, but he's definitely a guy that can come into the locker room and produce.
Did he not play a snap for the Eagles?
He didn't.
What's up with that?
I don't know.
That defense has been very wishy-washy and hasn't been great by any means. To not even be able to get a snap on that team, doesn't say a lot. Doesn't say a lot of good things.
It's weird though. He's 26. He's young still. He can still, and he just was good. I don't know. It's a weird situation.
Same thing with Darius Leonard.
Maybe he just didn't fit in right.
Linebackers just especially knee injuries, they just after that, it's such a physically tolling position to play. It's the same as running back. It's the defensive running back pretty much. So
yeah, I here's my take on Devin White. I'll keep it short. I think Devin White, very good linebacker out of LSU. Very good linebacker.
Oh, Jeff, out of LSU. I was so proud of him.
He's washed. He's absolutely washed.
Yeah. Let me ask you this:
he's washed.
27.
Trevor Nowatzki or Devin White?
Trevor Nowatzki. Hold on. Let me do something.
He's a Cardinal. He's a Cardinal aligned with you.
No. Sit down for a second.
If Devin White, he didn't like that. If Devin White can't crack a rotation on the Eagles, and they're already as bad as they are on defense, he's done.
I don't think it's a talent thing. I think it's just I think Devin White just off the field right now is probably a little he fell off, and I think people struggle to come back into terms. And Philly wasn't a good situation to begin with. That whole locker room was on fire. So a guy that's now coming into that locker room that's kind of down on confidence is not going to help. I think Detroit's a fine spot for him to be a linebacker 4 or 5. I would trust Devin White to be out there. If say you're in the NFC Championship game and Anzo and Jack Campbell for whatever reason are not on the field, I trust Devin White to be out there for a drive. I'm not concerned about it.
I just want to show you guys something real quick.
You did not just pull up.
Let's not talk about Trevor Nowatzki. And look at this. Aiden Hutchinson, 90 overall grade off 8 snaps, defensive snaps. This is off defensive snaps, not special teams. Defensive. Okay. 8.
Trevor Nowatzki.
He played 8 defensive snaps at the Sam linebacker spot and had 3 pressures out of those 8 snaps. And he had the second high. Look at this. This isn't even close. A 91.2 and a 90. And then the next highest is Aleem McNeil with the 77. The efficiency in 8 snaps to go out there and put up a 90 overall PFF grade and have 3 pressures off 8 snaps. Hold on. Don't say Booner yet. Wait a second. Hold on. Let's look. DJ Reader, 37 snaps, 2 pressures. Josh Pascal, 53 snaps, 3 pressures. Josh Pascal, 53 snaps, 3 pressures. Trevor Nowatzki, 8 snaps, 3 pressures. 8 snaps, 3 pressures, 3 quarterback hurries. Josh Pascal, 53, 3, and 2. Let's talk about that. All right. Case closed.
Booner, let me just ask a simple question. And because if whatever your answer is, we'll leave it there because we'll be talking in circles. Lions, we're in the divisional round, okay? The Detroit Lions are. The Washington Commanders, they snuck around. They won the NFC East, but when the Philadelphia Eagles are coming into town. Saquon Barkley's in the backfield. Saquon Barkley's now in the open field. Trevor Nowatzki or Devin White to tackle him.
Hey, give me the Cardinal, huh? Give me Trevor Nowatzki. SBSU Cardinal all day long. Respect. Give me the axe. Give me all of that.
Well, to be fair, Klotz.
Devin White. I'll be fair.
To be fair, Klotz couldn't do it on Philly. They cut him. So what makes you think he'll do it in a different year?
Trevor Nowatzki didn't get cut this year.
Film
Wait, no, Trevor did.
I'm sure Nick Sirianni was grinding film. He didn't like what he saw.
Nick Sirianni can't keep up that defense to save his life.
Hey,
Nick Sirianni's gonna be out of Philly by the end of the year.
PFF. Yeah. By the way,
it's only good when it fits your narrative.
Exactly.
For sure, 100%.
I say that all the time.
I mean, when we use PFF now, I hate it. Like anytime we pull it up, clutches. Oh. It's like, all right,
I hate it.
Relax, dude. Like it's just a measure. Like
it's
we're not. The thing is, though, is like we're not using it as a life or death situation. Like you can look at it and be like, all right,
it's your narrative. It's nice. It's nice.
How did a guy play? Like James Houston, we're all like, he had the worst game ever, and we pull PFF up, and he has dead last PFF grade. It's like, all right, yeah, that makes sense. So it's a little bit of a measuring tool. It's not a life or death thing where it's like you look at it and you're like, I'm living by PFF. I would never, besides Trevor Nowatzki. And I didn't even care about the grade. Let's talk about the snap count compared to the pressure rate. Well, if you look at 3 pressures off 8 snaps and 3 pressures with 58 snaps, who are you taking? If you saw that stat,
that rate should be starting.
Based off the data, he's better than Aleem McNeil. That is the data that we're given.
Maybe my guy should get some more run. That's all I'm saying.
Maybe Trevor Nowatzki, maybe they have a gem and they just don't know it.
I'm gonna message him. I'm gonna get Trevor.
You just message him, hey bro. 90 grade.
He gives him the link right now and he joins. He starts talking shit.
I'm gonna hit him up.
Devin White, huh?
White? I'll pass on Devin White, and I actually like Devin White. Me and you seem to like a lot of the same players coming out of college, Klotzy, but for whatever reason, you're very loyal to these guys. And then because they do. Sometimes these guys that you're loyal to end up playing well again. You're like, see, I told you. I don't know if that's the case with Devin White. I don't know. I don't know what role.
Telling me Devin White can't be a linebacker 4 or 5.
Yeah.
I mean, instantly. Listen. Just like instantly,
when he gets Nowatzki, basically, that's what he is.
All right, why don't we not like go at Trevor? I'm gonna try and get Trevor on the show here. So let's relax here, Jeff. But with Devin White, I will say with Derek Barnes going out and on IR, depending on how long term that injury is, because I know Dan said something about it yesterday, and it seems like it's maybe a little bit worse than people think. They might look at a Devin White being like, how do we replace Derek Barnes? And Devin White, he's a Super Bowl winning linebacker with experience. So if you put him in the right position, maybe in Philly there was it was a mess over there, and there just wasn't opportunities for him. But you look over here and you're sitting there and you're like, Derek Barnes, you're starting Sam's down. Now you're trying to fill the void with different guys with Malcolm, and maybe you can get him in here behind Malcolm and get another piece there. Especially if it's like kind of cheap and you don't have to spend a lot and you have some of the most cap space in the NFL right now. Why wouldn't you just make the phone call? Like, hey, what happened? What's going on? Why'd you get cut? Is there a reason? Just do your homework. I'm sure Brad's Brad. Brad's already done his homework.
But you know how the Lions are, man. It's like our guys.
You look at Jack Campbell. Devin White's a good guy to get a prototype off. I mean, for hell, they brought in Zach Ertz in the NFC Championship game and he didn't even play a snap. Like, I think bringing in Devin White does nothing. Like, I don't think he's a guy that's going to have a locker room issue. I just think Philly as a whole is just a burning fire from the interior out. So, I like Devin White. I like him.
I could tell. I
fancy Devin White.
By the way, shout out Mr. Detroit City. I should say too, like, and if you're in Florida, hopefully, everyone stay safe. Appreciate you still tuning in, but stay safe down there. It looks like crazy, like absolutely nuts. I was thinking, as things happen, maybe we should do like a donation thing. Like
I would love, that'd be
raise
great.
some money from the people. Yeah. And we can put some in too, and we donate somewhere down there because it hasn't all happened. There was a hurricane last week, but this one that's happening tonight and tomorrow, dude, that looks like it's like one of the worst in like USA history. Like we've never seen something like that. Like like all of Florida's getting hit. Like that's crazy, dude.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, it's no joke. I mean, my brother lives out there. He lives in Tampa, and he's staying. He's like,
no way.
Wow.
He should definitely try and get out. This isn't me being funny. Like, this is me being like,
he's pretty dead set on his ways. He's like, I'm staying. I'm like, dude, okay.
He should.
But yeah, prayers to anyone that's over there.
Prayers to your brother.
Yeah, he's in Tampa.
Where does he have is he going to be good? Does he have a spot? Dude, that's worries me.
Yeah, I mean, he's I don't even know why I'm smiling. Actually, it's kind of messed up.
No, it's it's one of those situations where it's like
I smile whenever it's a bad situation. I don't know why. Do you guys do that? I do.
Dude, I smile all the time. The worst thing would happen to me, like someone would die, and I'd be like, "Oh man," like not happy. You know what I mean? Like,
shucks. Oh,
shucks, man.
Mr. Detroit City says, I'm in the housing industry, including mold remediation. Let me know, Jeff. Well, shout out to you, Mr. Detroit City, man. And if you're out there, bro, I don't know where I know everyone's their expressways getting out of Florida are like stands.
Dude, I heard they're running out of gas and people can't get it's ridiculous and it's category 5. Like, it's the worst thing. Like, dude, I'm surprised your brother's staying, dude. He needs to have the plan together and everything.
Yeah.
I don't know. Me in that situation, I'd be panicking. I'd be going crazy. I'd be so far gone. The second I hear that it's somewhat coming, I'm out. See you later.
Yeah. It's no joke. I mean, there's a lot of what do they call it? Floridians. A lot of them are like I got my uncle's out there. Well, he's in Orlando, so he's not as close to
Shout out. Love Orlando, dude.
But there are a lot of them people are like, I'm staying. Like, I'm like standing on business, which I'm like, okay. And I saw another comment in here too, John Hughes, dude, I don't want bad things to happen. You don't move to Florida and think hurricanes won't happen. So anyone down in Florida watching the program, stay safe out there, man.
We'll talk.
JT going to join us in a couple of minutes. So if you're in the show, stay patient because he'll be joining. Can't wait.
We could talk tonight too, boys, of putting something together to try and save, raise some money to help some people out there, especially if there's people from our show or someone that needs help with stuff. Help some people out.
Well, let's and by the way, big shout out to Mr. Detroit City. I tried offering Broder a job when he left WSN this week. Shout out Mr. Detroit City, man. Trying to just helping the fellas.
Hey, man of the people. How about that?
Man of the people.
How about this? Shout out Broder too.
Yeah. Shout out Broder. A bunch of shout outs. Another shout out Chris Castellani because he's waiting patiently. We're gonna have him on the program. Pick his brain about the Detroit Tigers and pick his brain about some other things because he knows his Detroit sports. Very, very sharp dude. So please welcome to the show the host of Chris and Company, which you guys can check out on YouTube, by the way. He's grinding content. He's doing a great job. And of course, follow him on Twitter as well. But please welcome Chris Castellani. Chris,
what's going on, fellas? How we doing, man? How we doing?
Dude, hey, it's good to see you again, my friend. I know you've been having a great time.
It's I definitely did not expect the last time that I was on that the next time we spoke would be in the heart of a Detroit Tigers playoff run, but I wouldn't have it any other way, man. Here we are. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, Chris, it's funny because actually funny you bring that up because the last time you were on, we were talking about how much of a shit show it was and an absolute shit storm that the Tigers were in. And then I see you on Twitter, you're thriving, dude. And I want your thoughts just on this run, how miraculous it's been. And just someone that's covered this team so closely. How much does this mean, the significance of it? And then you could even add, how far can they take this? Really, now that we're in the playoffs, we're in the thick of it.
Yeah, so I mean, look, this is on a personal level, this is the most fun I've had watching sports ever. I mean, this is just crazy because there's something when you're playing with house money like this and the run is so unexpected. I mean, nobody saw this coming. I guess, having kind of gone through or looked at, watched every game and seen the way that this team has developed, I think it begins and ends with pitching. I mean, I think for a long time, even if they were guys that we didn't really recognize that had just been called up from the minors or had been, acquired from other teams, they were pitching at a very high level for a long time. And I think it was the combination of the pitching finding itself again, and the return of Kerry Carpenter, which kind of kick-started this offense to get going again. And it was so fun to follow because for the longest time, and I'm usually the biggest pessimist when it comes to this stuff, for the longest time, I'm like, I got to get to a certain point in the standings before we're playing for something, right? And then they got to within 5 games. I'm like, that's meaningful baseball. And then, they have the 5-1 road trip, and then they come back home, and all of a sudden it's like, we got a magic number. Like, we're fighting for the postseason. So it's been a long time coming. the most rewarding part of the entire thing has been just seeing the reaction of the fans, whether it's at the ballpark or on social media. I mean, it reminds me a lot of the Lions the last few years, where there's something about sports just bringing seemingly an entire fan base, an entire city or state together like this. And I guess the only difference is there were expectations a season ago with the Lions and what we expected them to do for this team, which was essentially dead and buried. And I talk about this on the Chris and Company episode that's coming out tomorrow, but it's one of those things where I can't dig up receipts and call people dumb for burying this team. This was like mathematically the world was burying this team. It was a 0.2% chance of making it to the postseason. So the fact that they've risen the way that they have, and just, I mean, the number of clutch hits, none bigger than yesterday with what Kerry Carpenter was able to do. It's led to a lot of restless nights for sure, as is often the case. I forgot what this felt like, man. I mean, the last time we made a deep run in October, I was still in high school. So like I'm pardon my French, I'm old as fuck. So like it's been a minute since we've kind of gone through this whole process. So to be able to experience it, and to be able to experience it now with the content that I'm doing and the people that I've gotten to know, dude, it's awesome. And of course I want him to win, but I'm saying to myself like multiple times today, like, dude, I'm going to be at Comerica Park tomorrow for a home playoff baseball game. Like, how cool is that going to be? I can't wait.
I can't. Hey, Chris, it's good to talk to you, brother, again. Do want to see your video. I've seen hundreds of your videos after the post games. To see the one after the playoff, or not the first playoff one, but just like when they clinched the playoffs, and then just the progression of that. I'm like, man, like, you know, you almost just as a Tigers fan, you're like getting emotional. Like, I'm over here. I'm like, this is amazing to see that we're doing this. I do want to ask you a question though, because you actually spoke with AJ Hinch this year. You had the interview with him. I just want to see what your thoughts are on the job that he's done, because it felt like at times I've had people, you know, in my circle who are like, hey, I don't know about AJ Hinch, I want him out, like last year. And then now as time's gone on, it's starting to seem a little like, hey, AJ knows what he's doing. He has his club, like everything running perfect. He's making the right moves, in-game decisions. Can you just talk about how you feel like about the whole AJ Hinch situation, how he's done in this run?
Well, I've always been a big AJ guy, and if people go back, and it feels like forever ago now, but I was on board with the Tigers bringing him on to manage the team back in 2020 during that offseason. And I've never been off the AJ Hinch bandwagon. I think when it comes to managers in baseball, they have to be judged differently than we judge coaches in other sports, where I think the roster and the makeup of the roster is so important. And the fact is, you know, when you look at the rosters he's had the first 3 years here, he overachieved with two of those first 3 years with rosters that were incredibly underwhelming. The talent came along this season, and you've seen what he's been able to do. And honestly, I think, you know, you give credit to the players, and the players have gone out and executed, and they've pitched incredibly well, and they've played with confidence, and they've gotten big hits. But to me, the way that he's played the matchups and the way that he's used and managed the bullpen, I think he's not only inspired the team to kind of have this, you know, keep the line moving, pass the baton mindset, but I think it's been, and some managers have been open about this, it's kind of been a nightmare for other teams. In fact, the Tigers just played a playoff game, the game that they won against Houston in game 2. Obviously, you get 6 innings from Skubal in game 1, but in game 2, there wasn't a single Astros hitter who saw the same Tigers pitcher twice. So you are doing shuffling the cards in the deck and going to a different pitcher every time, and you have to read different scouting reports. Sometimes you're preparing for a lefty, sometimes you're preparing for a righty. I think he deserves a ton of credit for the way that he's played the matchups. And look, sometimes, and you guys watch my videos, sometimes I'll get upset, like, playing a lefty. I'd like to see Kerry Carpenter out there. I get it, but he's kind of had this magic wand this year where it's like every time you get frustrated with him looking at the analytics and playing the matchups, it'll work. I mean, the prime example is, you know, Andy Ibanez exists in the major leagues. He's on this team because he hits left-handed pitching, and he comes up against Josh Hader in the wild card round and gets, you know, the biggest hit of his career. It seems like he's pulled all the right strings. I think even beyond that, it's just when you have a team full of young players who haven't won anything at the major league level before, I think it's very easy to get guys who are kind of not scared of the moment, but become aware of where they are, especially when they're facing a more experienced team like a Cleveland or a Houston. And these guys just haven't blinked, and they've fallen behind in games, and they've gotten in trouble in games, and they've pitched out of it. It's been inspiring, and I think that he deserves a lot of credit for that.
Yeah, Chris, and I appreciate you coming on. You just talked about the job that AJ Hinch has done over this run in the playoffs so far. Who do you think's the X factor outside? I mean, Skubal's having a year. We can't even deny that. But who do you think's the guy that's benefiting the most from AJ taking this play style with the Tigers right now?
Yeah, well, I think, you look at the bullpen as a whole, and I think guys like Tyler Holton stand out, but he's been such a key piece. I think that offensively is kind of where you look at X factors because pitching's been the identity of this club since the beginning. I think there's two guys that kind of come to mind for me. Number one is Parker Meadows. I just feel like this team as a whole completely turned a corner when he got called back up and started producing. In fact, I mean, the numbers are there. Their record when Parker Meadows is in the lineup is insanely good. They're at like a 110 win pace or something when he's in that lineup. And what he's able to do is being a legitimate leadoff guy who can get on base, who can swipe bags, who is just an elite defensive center fielder. I mean, how many times, including yesterday, have we seen him go out and get a ball, near the fence and rob a home run? He's been phenomenal with that. I think he's a huge part of this, but also a guy who kind of does a lot of quiet things for this team, but has started to, in a small sample size, show it with the bat as well as Jake Rogers. Now, Jake Rogers, when you look at catchers in baseball, every clubhouse will needs a team like a Jake Rogers. He's not going to hit for a ton of average. He's not going to get on base a ton, but he's a great defensive catcher. But that whole rally yesterday against Class A, which ended with Carpenter hitting that 3-run home run, that started with him just ripping a single to left field. And when you have a guy like that at the bottom of the order, what that can lead to when you turn it back over to the Parker Meadows and the Kerry Carpenters and the Riley Greens of the world, I mean, this is a guy who has hit 20 home runs in a season at the big league level. So to me, those are kind of two guys that stand out because I don't think the league, especially with Parker, is aware of their ceiling quite yet. And I think that with a big postseason, somebody like that could really put themselves on the map.
Yeah, and Chris, we've had throughout this whole playoffs and even leading up to it, you've seen the bats really everyone kind of step up and kind of have their own game. Is there someone really in particular that you're looking to step up at the plate within these next 3 games, hopefully 2 games? But is there someone that you're looking forward to step up at the plate?
Well, I mean, there's been somebody I've been looking to step up for 3 years, and that's Spencer Torkelson. So, I mean, look, and I honestly feel bad sometimes because I root for the guy a ton, and I'm like this. I'm pretty consistent with all the guys I talk about on the team. I keep hoping, and sometimes you see this in baseball, when you have a struggling player or a struggling prospect, they just have that one moment where they need to see the ball go over the fence and something clicks. I don't know what his future holds here, but the guy hit 31 home runs a season ago. That doesn't happen on accident. We can say, hey, maybe it wasn't indicative of who he is. And when you look at the overall sample size, yes, he's been a disappointment, but that clearly means the guy can put the bat on the ball and that ball can go over the fence. And so you're batting him 6th and you're getting good at bats by a lot of these guys. I think that a consistent Torkelson, as I said from the beginning of the season, completely changes the dynamic of the team. Now, I don't think he's as important as he was early on in the season because he's not batting 3rd or 4th anymore, but you got him 6th in that lineup. He is yet to, and it's kind of crazy they're 3-1 with this. They are 3-1 right now, 4 games into the postseason. He's yet to record a hit, and the only really legitimate at-bat that he had was he drew a walk against Josh Hader, which set up Ibanez's double in Houston. If he can just have a 2-hit game or a game where he rips a double or a home run and just to get the confidence going a little bit, I'm not even thinking about what it might look like for next year's roster. In some ways, I think that's kind of already decided. But, I want to win games in October, and the teams that wear pitchers down in October, especially when you're talking about a team like Cleveland who has such a deep pen, are teams where 1 through 9, it's 5 pitches in at bat, 6 pitches in at bat. You're drawing walks, you're hitting singles. You're facing the best pitchers of the world, and these are the best teams in the world. You're not going to be facing a whole lot of guys who are just going to be out there pitching garbage time ball. If you can keep the lineup consistent, whether you're recording outs or not, that works up pitch counts. And I think a guy like Torkelson batting 6th or 7th in that lineup, he can be a huge factor of this. It's why have been so critical of him, is the fact that I think him ascending completely changes the outlook of this offense. And hopefully we can see that at home over the next few days.
Hey, Chris, I just want to see your thoughts for tomorrow's game. I don't know if they've announced the pitcher yet and what the lineup's going to look like, but what are your thoughts tomorrow? Confidence level? Are you going to be in attendance? Just how are we feeling? Are we feeling good?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be there for game 3 and 4. I'm going to be there with my my buddy and my producer Austin. We're going to be doing some content stuff, and I can't wait for that. Look, it's where we're at right now. Is this ride has been so insane that they're going to announce a pitcher, and there's literally no outside of Maeda's not on the roster. There's nobody they could announce where I'm like, really him? They have thrown out so many different guys, so many different lineups, so many different pitchers that I have faith that they're going to go out and deliver. I guess the one thing that is sort of an X factor in this is it's the first home playoff game you've played in 10 years. And typically we talk about what kind of impact that can have on the road team. And that's true. I think the crowds in Detroit are going to be crazy, but I also think to a certain extent, it will be very important that these pitchers control the emotions in these games as well, because this is going to be the loudest environment they've ever played in. It's going to be the largest environment they've ever played in terms of capacity. And sometimes you do see in October pitchers come out in these situations, they kind of overthrow and they kind of get away from themselves a little bit. I think the key will be getting control the emotions, getting into the dugout, and then trying to get in Alex Cobb's head when he takes the mound. So yeah, I don't really know what the situation looks like with the pitchers. I think we're going to see a lot of Reese Olson in Game 4, whether he's the bulk guy or starting. I think that the innings he gave them in Game 1 will actually turn out to be very important. He looked a lot better, but the way it's at right now, there's really no matchup that I'm going to disagree with at this point. It's just a matter of continuing to play the kind of baseball with the identity that they've had over the last month and a half, 2 months, which is passing the baton, pitching good innings, and getting clutch hits. You're going to they needed that in September, and you're going to need that in October as well.
Jackson Joe, maybe, Chris?
I think there's a legit possibility. Yeah.
My gosh.
Here's the thing with that is I know, we talk about what happened in Game 2 against Houston, but honestly, I think that the mindset of this organization totally changed after they had that 5-1 road trip where they swept Kansas City and then they won 2 out of 3 against Baltimore. Like, Job isn't here just to pitch in 6-0 games in October. And honestly, a big reason for that is pretty much most of the games you play in October are going to be close games. There's no such thing as low leverage innings in October. And while, yeah, it's a big risk. This is a guy who's pitched, including the game against Houston, 4 1/3 or 4 2/3 major league innings of baseball in his entire career. But they wouldn't have called him up unless they felt as if he could contribute in some capacity. And they seem like they've wanted him to pitch out of the pen. Maybe he's a bulk guy. Maybe he's a late inning guy. But Jackson Jobe, I would be stunned if he doesn't see the mound in the next 2 games at Comerica Park.
Wow. Glad you addressed that. I was going to ask you about that, but I will ask you this, Chris. World Series matchup, and why are the Tigers in it?
I would say, okay. So you guys asked earlier, and I was thinking about this. Look, I think as far as how far they can go, my theory about this from the beginning is over the last 7, 8 years, the team, in order to win the American League, you either had to beat Houston or beat Houston. Now, the Tigers have already done one of those things. They beat Houston.
Right.
And the reason I bring that up is I think the American League is as wide open as it's been. Like, if the Tigers pitch at the level that they've pitched at, I think it's a legit possibility that they can come out of this and win the pennant. Like, pitching rules in October, I think that's going to continue to be the case. With that said, I think that when you look at the National League, whether it's the Mets, the Padres, you could throw the Phillies in there too. They haven't been knocked out, or even the Dodgers. I do worry that at some point they can run into a bully. So this is my roundabout way of saying I'm gonna go Tigers Padres in a rematch of the '84 World Series. I think the Padres have the Dodgers on the ropes. I think the Padres are just better equipped with their pitching right now of any other NL team to make it to the World Series. At that point, you kind of have to play perfect because the matchups aren't as favorable. That's a really deep lineup with Machado and Tatis and Cronenworth. I mean, they got some really good players. Profar's had a great year, and their pitching's been fantastic. But right now, it's hard for me to pick against a team that has done nothing but come up with clutch hit after clutch hit over the last month and a half. So that's what I'm going to ride with.
Yeah, Chris, I like hearing that because, as the show knows, when the Tigers were when we thought they were long eliminated and we were down and out, I put some money aside for the Padres right when Tatis came back. But that's besides the fact. But just your biggest worry within these next 2 to 3 games, no matter if it's Jose Ramirez, Josh Naylor, all the hitters that they have and what type of impact they can have on a nightly basis. Just your biggest worry or something that you don't want to see happen, obviously, within these next 2 to 3 games.
Well, my biggest worry, and yes, there's the chance there are guys like J-Ram and Naylor who can beat you. But the fact is, Jose Ramirez is just a great player. He's probably going to be in the Hall of Fame one day. He can beat anybody. What worries me the most is what's worried me since the opening day of the season, which is the offense going lights out. And I think when you look at these first 2 games in Cleveland, hey, you know what? They did exactly what they needed to do. They won the Scooble start. They came out of it with a victory and split those first 2 in Cleveland. At the same time, they played 18 innings. They scored in one of those innings, and I think as clutch as this team has been, and while they've come up with big hit after big hit, I worry that isn't over, especially over a period of time in October when you're facing really good pitching. 100% sustainable. And I feel like they're going to need to get a little bit more consistency from some of the better guys in their order, like Colt Keith, like Riley Green. Parker's been fine, but you kind of get my point, putting together more consistent ABs. So I have total faith in the pitching, and like the way that they lost game 1, it made total sense to me. That's how they lose games. They didn't pitch well. They gave up 5 runs in the first inning. That's what happens. What scares me is they put together a really good pitching performance and the offense goes quiet the way that they did many times in the early part of the season. But if the bats can get going early, I'm going to feel really good about their chances.
Chris, I know you're a big Michigan man as well.
Yeah.
We have two big Michigan men on the show as well. What do you make of this season so far? I know quarterback play has been ass, very obvious. What do you make of the Sharon Moore era? And they have a lot of great defensive players, but what have been your thoughts? I know you've been busy with the Tigers, rightfully so. But just your thoughts on this Michigan season with Sharon Moore.
For sure, and I recommend. I'll give myself a cheap plug here, but tomorrow's Chris and Company, we talked to Tony Garcia of the Detroit Free Press, who covers Michigan sports, and we talk a lot about this, and basically my whole philosophy is when it comes to this team, I've tried not to view them as the comparison to the team that won the championship last year, because in a lot of ways, all that does is open things up to criticism, because last year's team from a record standpoint was perfect. If you're going to compare those two, there's nowhere to go but down. I'm trying to view this team as their own entity. And even by that metric, there's a lot of question marks I've seen here. Quarterback's obviously the biggest one. I mean, I'm just curious, like, did they think that this was actually going to work? Like this kind of cobbled together quarterback system that they have. It's bizarre to me that something that people labeled as a problem from day one, they never really addressed. But beyond that, I expected that this team would be a lot stronger and a lot more disciplined, because over the last few years, yes, they've lost a lot of players, but these were Michigan teams that weren't penalized. They didn't beat themselves. They didn't commit defensive penalties. Like, they didn't shoot themselves in the foot. And this has been a team that through the first 6 games of the season has been remarkably undisciplined. And to me, the sign of a poorly coached football team, like, is that it's that you're playing a team on the other side that's trying to beat you. That is going to be so much easier when you're continually beating yourselves. And when you look at the first 24 quarters of football that they've played, they've only really impressed me in one half. And it was the first half against USC, which was a game that they kind of won miraculously. Look, I'm still in, and I maybe this is just my own philosophy, but I'm still kind of in the honeymoon phase. Like, they were 40-3 over the last 3 years. Like, there's not a whole lot that can happen where I'm gonna feel gypped out of like those awesome memories that have happened. But viewing them as their own thing, I think these concerns are legitimate, even beyond the quarterback play. This is still a team that returned. They lost a lot, but there's still 6 defensive starters last season from a defense that was one of the best in that college football seen in recent memory. And yet for them to consistently give up chunk yardage plays, defensive penalties, inconsistency in the secondary, it does feel like something is off. And I think the attention to detail that was there in the latter stages of the Harbaugh era just isn't there. It's not something where I'm going to demand Sharon be out of a job after year 1, but it is something where I think there will need to be some changes going forward if we don't see some kind of improvement over the next several weeks, because the Big Ten's gotten better and there's not a whole lot of winnable games left in their schedule.
Yeah, I'm just going to follow up with what you just said at the end there, Chris, because yesterday the Sharon Moore situation, I know it's so early, but it just feels like you said, the undisciplined, all of that. How long is this kind of leash for Sharon Moore? Because I've gone off 2 weeks ago when you lose to when we lost to Texas, I went off like, you can't go into there and get just absolutely mopped the way you did. And then the USC game, I'm like, all right, maybe Sharon is up to, like, maybe he is building something. And then the Washington game here, it kind of put me over the edge to where it's like, that's a game you should win. There's no reason they should have lost that game. And it felt like it was coaching, like you said. What's the leash for Sharon Moore? Because as a Michigan fan as well, I'm struggling trying to figure out this Sharon Moore situation.
Well, it's completely different from Harbaugh, because Harbaugh had a long leash in large part because he had the pre-established pedigree with Stanford and what he did in the NFL. Sharon, outside of being an interim coach for several games last year, like, Sharon Moore has never done anything as a head coach. Like, and he's never really been given the opportunity, but it's just the truth. I really think this year you can't call it a wash because it happened. And these losses are still going to be losses and the failures are still going to be failures. But I think that when you look at this team, even with the defensive inconsistencies and the offensive line not being as good, like, the lack of any consistency or production at the quarterback has been just devastating for this team. And that affects everything. That affects field position. That affects the way your defense is going to play. Are they going to have to go up against teams who have shorter fields? Like, this is an offense that doesn't complement their defense whatsoever. I think that the first big question mark for Sharon will be, you got to go out and get a quarterback. Whether you think that's Jaden Daniels coming in next season as probably a redshirt freshman, or going out and get somebody in the portal, that's going to make a huge, huge difference. And if you can get that playmaker at quarterback, or just that stabilizer at quarterback, I think next season will be very telling, because I think there's a potential that a lot of those holes that haven't been plugged could be plugged with a playmaker at quarterback. I mean, Cade did his thing in 21, and they had that great defense and the great running game, but you saw the way that Harbaugh's program took over and the way that offense expanded with J.J. McCarthy. It sounds like a lofty goal, but Sharon's number one goal needs to be, he's got to go out and find a J.J. McCarthy. And it sounds simple, but the truth is, I've watched a lot of college football in my day, and with a few of the rarest exceptions, you're not winning without a quarterback, man. You're not winning without a guy who's mobile, who can be accurate, who can sustain drives and get out of the pocket. They knew coming into the season that they weren't going to have that. Why they rolled the dice the way they did is it's a swing and a miss on his part. Like, that is, regardless of what happens going forward, like, that is his first big failure as a head coach here. But I think I will be able to more properly judge who he is as a head coach after he kind of develops his first quarterback. Then I can get a sense of where this program might be headed.
Chris, I hate to break it to you, but big Ohio State fan here. So I'm loving this season for Ohio State wise and Michigan. I'm having a blast. It's a good time. Yeah. My question to you, though, is, and even like me watching Michigan, when Michigan's good, they're up here, and then it's kind of fall back down to earth. Do you think this is going to be a team, now that there's NIL, the transfer portal, kind of like you just spoke to? Do you think now Michigan's going to be able to kind of pick it right back up, or do you think they're going to kind of stay on a slow decline and kind of level off and then come back up, kind of how they've always been?
That's a good question. So much of it depends on whether or not Sharon knows what he's doing. Because the fact is, and it's, it's kind of a simple answer, like it's about head coaching, but it really is, because here's the one thing I've said. I've watched Michigan football for 20 years. I've seen good Michigan teams. I've seen bad Michigan teams. I've never watched a Michigan team that didn't have a lot of talent on it. I've seen Michigan teams that didn't have the personnel in place to develop that talent. And look, NIL is more important than it's ever been. I mean, it's a big, big reason why Blake Corum was able to come back last year and help Michigan win a national championship. And the transfer portal is as important as it's ever been. Like, I totally acknowledge that. At the same time, you need a head coach and a personnel that has the ability to put these guys in positions to succeed. When you look at some of the guys from the early part of the Harbaugh era that were so players who ended up being studs in the NFL, like Nico Collins is one of the best receivers in the NFL right now. He was fine at Michigan. Like, he was okay. They didn't really give him the ball that much. I think that as important as those things will be, and you got to, in the modern age, adjust to the 21st century. You got to be able to pay players, throw bags at guys, and go out and get guys in the portal. I think that, similar to what we talk about with the Tigers, getting talent is one thing, developing talent will be another, and all of that will fall, I would say, entirely on Sharon and his staff. And so it's kind of a to be determined. I think that with year one, he does have the built-in excuse of, there was about a month there where they didn't know who the coach was, and they kind of lost out on the opportunity to maybe go get some other coaches or potentially go out and get a quarterback. There will be no excuses for next season. So I think really the trajectory of this program will be able to tell in large part probably by what they're able to do next season. And, as frustrating as this team has been, like, those four big tough guys on the defensive side of the ball, Will Johnson, Kenneth Grant, Josiah Stewart, and Mason Graham, they're going to be gone next year. Like, there's a lot they got to replace next year as well. So he's going to need to do his work in the portal, and he's going to need to do his work in regards to player development.
Yeah. And Chris, by no means am I trying to wish away this playoff run or fast forward this playoff run, but back to the Tigers. Yeah. Obviously, going into next season, this team's shown that they're for real. Is there any players that are kind of like on your wish list as far as maybe acquiring or signing a third baseman, going out and getting an outfielder, just making another addition to this team now that they've shown that, you put them in these situations, they have some of the pieces that can take you there. So is there anyone that you're looking forward to, maybe the Tigers reaching out to next season? For
sure. Well, I mean, I think pitching wise, you can always add pitching, and they will. I think as great as this bullpen has been, one thing that has been a legitimate complaint is that sometimes it's gotten better in the latter part of the season. Sometimes they've been lacking in high strikeout guys and lacking in swing and miss. One guy who's still kind of defying the odds in his late 30s that still, throws gas is Aroldis Chapman. I think the idea of him on a 1-year deal coming to Detroit could potentially be a thing. There's been whispers about maybe Verlander back on a 1-year deal, maybe a Walker Buehler. But in terms of position players, there's only 2 positions I look at and say they could really address a need. I think at first base, Christian Walker from the Diamondbacks makes a lot of sense. It would be, he's in his 30s, so we're not talking about a 7-year deal where it's going to be, you're going to be paying him till he's 41. Like you can get him on a 3-4 year deal. He's going to hit pretty consistently. The third base thing is going to be interesting because I think they still believe in Jace Young, but I'm not sure if they believe in Jace Young at third base. And if you feel like you can get an Alex Bregman on a good deal to come here and reunite with AJ Hinch, you make that move. I think it will be, in terms of acquiring new players, I'm not going to call it a quiet offseason. I think they will make their moves. But the big thing for me, and I think a lot of fans as well, that would alleviate stress is I want to see them make a run and make sure that they are doing the best they can to retain, the good young players that they have. They already did it with Colt Keith. Colt Keith had got a major league extension before he played a game. That's fantastic. I want to see them try to do something like that with Riley Green or Kerry Carpenter, because I think one of our fears here, and we've gone through it, is the fact that we've seen a lot of good players come to Detroit, and we've seen a lot of those same players leave Detroit either through trades or free agency, and it's kind of heartbreaking. I think it'll be very important for Scott Harris and Chris Ilitch to kind of tighten that up and make sure that these guys that come up through the system that we believe in, that have been stars for them, can stay here for a long time. And those contracts don't kill teams. Those can be very team-friendly contracts. So I think it'll be a lot of shorter deals, 1, 2, maybe even a 3-year deal for somebody like a Christian Walker, but I hope that they can make an attempt to kind of lock up some of the young players that they have here as well.
Hey, well, we appreciate you, Chris. We're big fans of you. Keep up the great work. Good luck tomorrow.
Legend.
Thank you. And guys, please check out Chris's stuff. You guys already know it, but especially tomorrow, because this week it's going to be very important. Chris, we'll talk to you very soon, my friend.
Hey, you guys keep killing it, all right? Thanks for having me.
We got you. There you go. Mr. Chris Castellani, the legend, joining the program to talk some baseball. Michigan. The man just knows.
It's great. Does a great job. Man. He's
I just learned so much from him about the Tigers in the last half hour. Like just how to look at the game of baseball.
Class is in session.
He knows ball.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Real ball knower.
Yeah. Well, he's the baseball knower. That's
sorry, Klotz. You're a ball knower as well, football, but Chris is absolutely dialed.
I would say it's humble of the ball knower to admit when he's getting knowledge. It's very humble when he's admitting, hey, I'm learning.
It is so sweet too. Like not just Chris, but just Tigers. Like Chris is someone you see it with because like for years I've seen his videos, his post game videos, and like the videos that got him to Barstool and got like all of that, like his build up. To be able to now see it in real time, like a playoff run, and like I was saying before, like the videos that he was making when they clinched the playoffs and won the play, like. Dude, it's so cool to watch those videos and as well as like just to see Tigers fans like at some of the Tigers fans videos that are at Cleveland the other night, yesterday, and you're able to actually like see like the emotion of like I'm with Chris. Like I'm a little older. I was like in high school or maybe even a little like younger when the Tigers went on these last runs with Verlander and those guys like in that crew. Yeah. So like to be able to like experience that, it's a similar thing to not obviously as big as with the Lions because the thing with the Lions run is that no one really experienced it ever. Yeah. Like unless you're like 70 or 60 years old, there's like a demographic of like 0 to like 60 where no one experienced it. But with the Tigers, it's like all of us experienced it as a kid. And when you get a taste of something like that, you're like, oh my gosh, like, and then you just don't get it for so long. So to be able to see, like, I love it, dude. I eat up the Tiger stuff, dude. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, and for someone like Chris, you've kind of seen him like go through everything with the Tigers. Like you said, obviously he got to see them right out of high school when they were very good, but he went through like 10 years of watching a bad baseball team. So like I firsthand, Jeff, firsthand what it's like covering a bad team, a sports team. It is not easy. It's a lot of long, dreadful days. So like just really anyone who is stuck with the Tigers, just like him, they deserve this too. And I'm happy for him that he gets to see this team, succeed, and he gets to go down there and enjoy these moments because he deserves it. He's been pushing out great Tigers content through all the terrible times and still keeping it upbeat and having fun with it. So Chris deserves
a great job too, dude. Like the best in the city at what he does.
Yeah.
You guys think there'll be a time where I could enjoy some Pistons basketball. Maybe I get my redemption. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean,
what do you think?
You know what? In a couple years, hopefully. I'll tell you what. Do you want to know the Booner path to the Pistons? I've never done this. This is like an exclusive.
Okay, talk to me. What do you got?
Booner,
step
let me warn you.
No.
You associate the Booner path with this. You're going to lose some credibility after they win like 18 games again.
My credibility will stay intact.
Shut up, Mike.
Step one of the Booner path for the Detroit Pistons, Tom Gore sells the team. Step one.
Whoa.
Then that's when things can start. You can start. It's like one of those things where, what's that like when you have something needs to heal, or no, like when you're working out, you need to break down the muscle or break down everything to be able to build it back up. That's what the Pistons need. They need to break it down from the very top, and they need to move on from the ownership. And then once the ownership moves on, you can start rebuilding and just start piecing this thing together and get back to the old culture that you were before 2008 or whenever he bought, or 2011, whenever he bought the Pistons.
You know what? Yeah, well, that'll be it.
That's the Booner path for the Pistons. I apologize. You know what? I actually talked to Jeff off camera a couple days ago, and I said, we had a conversation, and I said, you know what? I just realized what I just did. Take a step back. Tom Gores, I take that back. If you're listening right now, Tom, joking. All jokes.
I'm joking.
All jokes. We're good people here at Crunch Time,
to,
Tom. We're good people, Tom.
You're speaking. Hey, shout out Weezy D, by the way. I love it, man. He said, hey, Jeff, we can make playoffs this year. You know what I mean? Hey, why not us? Why not us?
I'll tell you why.
I don't use any I don't use us for any team. I try to keep it professional, but I do let it slide for the Pistons a little bit. I do use us a lot. Mm-hmm. Why not? Got to use us. But hey, speaking of deserving, because Mike was bringing up Chris Castellani, how he does deserve this. You guys see what happened to Robert Saleh? Did he deserve that? Did he deserve that? Getting fired by the New York Jets. By the way, security escorted this man out.
That's
Woody
crazy.
Johnson.
He wasn't leaving.
The picture. So Robert Saleh, they lose to the Vikings. Very hard fought game. Offense looked atrocious. And Robert Saleh, I don't know if this is true or not. I don't think so. Maybe Sheem's only. Maybe he's correct. Maybe I read it off. Maybe it was another one of those Dove Kleinman tweets. But essentially, he was. I know this is true. He was told, and he was absolutely shocked, and he did not expect this coming. He thought he'd get more time to kind of feel this out. It's a very good roster, and he thought, hey, I thought I had more time to kind of figure this out. And no, Woody Johnson said, throw up the deuces. See you later, my guy. And Aaron Rodgers claimed he did not know. I don't know how true that is. He said he did not know. This was not an Aaron Rodgers decision. This is a Woody Johnson decision, who's had like 25 head coaches in the last 25 years. Woody Johnson. So he's firing everybody. But this is the reality, guys. And I'm curious to get your thoughts on, and we'll get to the whole, Robert Saleh to be the next Lions DC, because I get he's a local guy, and I do think he's a great human being. Like, this isn't anything about him as a human being. I know people that know Robert Saleh say he's one of the greatest guys they've ever met. So human being, check. He's a great guy. Now, when it comes to coaching, the problem, and guys, I think this example of him getting fired, they can't figure out the offense. Nathaniel Hackett, whether it was his decision or not to hire him, even before Nathaniel Hackett, I get he's had multiple quarterbacks. But this shows to me not only the importance of getting either an offensive head coach, or B, your offensive coordinator right, like D'Amico did. D'Amico's a great head coach, but he has Bobby Slowick, nailed that hire, and they're doing just fine. But getting your quarterback right, and Aaron Rodgers has not looked like Aaron Rodgers. Just because what you do at another place does not mean you earn grace with another place. Tom Brady, notably, went to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He didn't sit there and go, yeah, I'm the shit because I won all these Super Bowls. I won MVP. Oh, I did this with the Patriots. Tom Brady said, no, I'm this is a fresh slate. I have to prove myself, right? And he did that with Tampa. They won a Super Bowl. So Aaron Rodgers does not get that grace. He has played terribly, and that is a fact. Now, the reality is, guys, what do we say with organizations? Head coach, GM, quarterback. Robert Saleh, say what you want about him as a head coach. They don't have a GM. Obviously, they've drafted a bunch of busts. It's just a fact. And more than that, Robert Saleh, his side of the ball has been great. Defense has been really good, right? The defense for the Jets has been solid since he's gotten there. but he still was fired. I think this proved to me, guys, the importance of having an offensive head coach, because even defensive guys, yeah, their defense can be great, but they're still like, hey, you're not figuring out this offense. See you later. This is the 2024 NFL, my man. Like, I mean, look at Dan Campbell and what he's done. And we'll get to that in a second, because I have a graphic here to kind of display what they both look like, because they were both hired in 2021. But Dan Campbell, Anthony Lynn was hired, trash, not good. What did Dan Campbell do? Move on, get out of here. You can't call plays. Dan Campbell calls plays. The offense improves. Ben Johnson's been sitting there chilling, waiting for his shot. He was there since Patricia was there. And Dan had some familiarity with him, gave him play calling duties, and he took off. And the offense has been excellent. And they had Jared Goff already at house, so they had a quarterback. And off they went. And Aaron Glenn, although he hasn't had all the talent, they've kind of figured out how to put together somewhat of a defense, and they're competitive. So it just shows, guys, and you know this past Super Bowl, offensive minds, Andy Reid, Kyle Shanahan, 2 offensive coaches. Who will be the 2 biggest head coaching candidates this year, guys? Bobby Slowick, Ben Johnson, 2 offensive coaches. That's just where the league is heading. And unfortunately for Robert Saleh, he didn't have a lot of pull with who he wanted as OC. Unfortunately, he was forced with Nathaniel Hackett, who's awful, absolutely awful. Yeah. And Aaron Rodgers, who's just, washed at this point. So do I think he got a bad rap? Yes. But again, I've learned a lot in my last, couple of years now talking sports. I will say this, guys. I was open to the idea of the Lions hiring Robert Saleh. In 2024, Jeff, I don't know why I thought that way. And that's just the growth of me, in my opinions now, because I don't know what I was thinking. No, you should not hire defensive coaches unless that guy can hire a staff. Like Dan Campbell does a great job at putting together a staff. Like they nailed it with Dan. Like thank gosh that the Lions don't listen to fans, but more than that, they don't listen to legislators, because apparently Michigan legislators put out they were like pushing for Robert Saleh because he's a Dearborn native back in 2021. And look at this graphic. And this is just the 2 head coaches in their career. I mean, look at this. Robert Saleh, Dan Campbell. You see on the left, Dan Campbell, his record in 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024, and his total record. And then Robert Saleh, right? Both had bad seasons year one. But look what the difference is. The Jets did not improve much
at all.
They just were 4-13. Okay, they jumped to 7-10, and they just stayed mid. They stayed mid with bad quarterback play, a bunch of busts that they drafted. And what did the Lions do? They took off. They had security at quarterback. They had a great OC. They had Brad Holmes continuing to fill this team with talent. And that's the difference, man. Like you just do it. It's unfortunate, but it's the reality. Thank God the Lions got this right, because the Lions would be looking for another head coach. I mean, they would. Robert Saleh, he'd be fine.
The thing with Robert Saleh, and people could have been like, yeah, Nathaniel Hackett could have got fired. Like the Robert Saleh, you're in year 4, and you literally have, you would argue, and you guys, honestly, all 3 of you guys, I'm pretty sure, were arguing that the Jets were the number 1 team in the AFC East, and that's because of the roster, like the defense they have, Aaron Rodgers, the weapons they have. Like they literally have one of the better rosters in the AFC. You can argue, and the start that you have, like at 2-3, like I wasn't, and like you said, Jeff, Robert Saleh could be the best human in the world. Like everyone that we all might know someone around here in Michigan who knows Robert Saleh. It's like this guy's an amazing person. But when it comes to football, like there were so many mishaps and things that were going on in that Jets. Like the whole thing with Aaron Rodgers going to what was it, like Egypt or something, and missing the mini camp when it was already communicated. And then he goes into the media and he makes it a big deal when it was already not a big, like it seemed like he just wasn't handling situations the right way. And you could put the blame on Rodgers, Nathaniel Hackett, Robert Saleh, this person. But with like Woody Johnson, it's like, hey, we're 2-3 and we should be like 3-1 or 3-2 or 4-1. There's no reason that this team should be 2-3. They've lost games in wild ways. You could sit there, but at the end of the day, who does it always fall on? It falls on Robert Saleh. Like he is the head coach and the leader of this organization. And I'm sure he knows it too. Like he knew, like, hey, year 4, I don't care if you have Zach Wilson or who you have. In the NFL, guess what? You don't get 8 years just because you don't have a quarterback. You get with your GM and you say, we need to figure something out. If they thought that they were going to have that bad of a year, or they couldn't have, last year without Aaron Rodgers, and that year was going to count towards his job, he should have went to the GM and they should have had a conversation like, let's go get another quarterback to be able to, so we can be better than 7 wins. So like at the end of the day, it falls at the top there. Like who's the guy that's leading everyone? That's Robert Saleh. Because I'll tell you guys what. Do you guys want to just be completely honest, like safe zone here? If Dan Campbell, his first 4 years in Detroit, won, what was it, Jeff? What was the first year? 3 games?
Yeah, 4 games. Well, for Dan?
No, for Robert Saleh.
Okay, so first year was 4-13.
So 4, 7, 7, and 2. So if Dan Campbell would have started off with 4 and then gone 7, and you're like, okay, there's improvement. You'd be like, all right, here we go.
Right.
We got something going. But then the next year you're sitting at 7, you're like, okay, what's going on? And then you start the year 4 when you're supposed to be taking that jump and you're 2 and 3. I promise you, everyone would be like, what is going on, Dan? The city of Detroit fans, we would all probably look what Dan when he was 1 and 6. Everyone, not everyone, but a lot of people were calling for Dan's job. And you're talking about a guy here with Robert Saleh who has a roster there in place, and he can't even go out there and produce. So it does fall on the top. Like it falls on Robert Saleh at the end of the day. He knows that. Now, yeah, the offense is 27th in the NFL. That's terrible. That's so bad. And he's a defensive guy. So like the Nathaniel Hackett, maybe he should have gone out there and got a better OC. That falls on him in the summer. Like if he didn't think that Nathaniel Hackett could have done it, go get a different OC. But what's going on there? And like honestly, everything top to bottom, like what head coach who's going to want to go in? Like, yeah, it looks good, but like I don't know, is that an attractive job with the way that Woody Johnson fires coaches?
No.
Like you're sitting there. It's obviously not as bad as like the Panthers job with the ownership there, but you're still going to be sitting there a little bit like, all right, what's it like here in New York? Like, is it an environment I want to be in? Like when Ben Johnson leaves, whenever that is, and say New York's open, it's like New York or Buffalo. What's the more attractive job? Not the job in Jersey. It's not that, and that should be the job that's attractive because that's the bigger market outside of Buffalo. Like New York City is the bigger market. So I don't know. It's such an interesting situation with Robert Saleh. I think, and this is too. I want people to know this. When there's those conversations of Robert Saleh being the DC in Detroit, it's not firing Aaron Glenn to do that. AG the last 2 years has had a handful of head coaching interviews. AG at some point is going to have an opportunity. As Jeff, as much as you don't like defensive head coaches, he will have an opportunity to be a head coach in the NFL within the next year or so. So when AG does decide to take that step and he does end up getting a head coaching job, all right, let's say that happens after this year. AG puts a top 10 defense out. You win a Super Bowl. Everything happens the way it does. And Ben Johnson goes to, let's say, the Bills, and AG goes somewhere like the Bears or something. And you're sitting there, you're like, okay, we need to replace our coordinators. Guess who you're going to probably call up? You're probably going to call Robert Saleh right away. And that's going to be one of your first calls that you make. And that's exactly who you should call instantly. Mm-hmm. That should be one of the first calls for DC, because people in the comments I hate the most with Robert Saleh is the people who are like, oh, look, like he was so bad in New York. Why would you want a guy that's that bad and AG's doing good here? Guys, when you say that comment to me, or I see that commented on Twitter, I instantly, and this is with all due respect, you do not know sports or you do not know football. Like you do not have a clue about what it takes to be a coach in the NFL. And I've seen a lot of comments, people that comment on my stuff a lot, people that comment on it, respect of ball knower status, and if you know, all gone. Being a head coach and a defense coordinator, two completely different things, like night and day. The responsibilities you have as a head coach in the NFL, it is so much more. If he came into Detroit and all he had to focus on was just being a defensive coordinator,
he's a great defensive coordinator.
That he's one of the best in the entire NFL. Look at the defense he had there, and he wasn't even an all-time DC. He had to go start sitting in on offensive meetings and helping with the offense and special teams to try and build that organization up. So he wasn't even fully committed and focused on the defense in that building. Think about if he just takes all his time and does that in defensively here in Detroit. Again, this isn't replacing AG. This isn't firing AG. This is if AG takes a head coaching job somewhere next season, that should be your first call. You should give everything you can to go get Robert Saleh for next season if you want to keep this window kind of rolling here. But that's it to me. And then again, that was what bothered me the most with the people in the Detroit here. We're like trying to talk down on Robert Saleh as a DC. It's like, all right, you just do not know football. Like you really don't. Like he's instantly, any DC job that Robert Saleh gets over the next few years, he will instantly be probably a top 3 defensive coordinator. He is that good.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have much to say about that. I just think Saleh, to your point, Booner, is a better defensive coordinator than he is a head coach. Like, I honestly think Joe Douglas for a GM really isn't that bad for the Jets. If you go back, like the moves that he's made, the ability to actually acquire Aaron Rodgers, Mike Williams, the Williams brothers. You look at Breece Hall, like he's drafted some studs. The problem is, especially offensively, like Robert Saleh does not know how to develop players. Like Garrett Wilson, great player. But production-wise, everything, he still looks like he does his rookie season. Breece Hall, same story there. So offensively, I just think Robert Saleh is tone deaf, and you're going to be even more tone deaf when you have Nathaniel Hackett, Aaron Rodgers' pocket buddy, when he's your offensive coordinator. Like, I just think Jeff nailed it when he said being able to build around him. But I don't have much to say outside of that. You deserve the boot. If Aaron Glenn gets a job, say New Orleans, wherever the hell it may be, Robert Saleh, the defensive coordinator, is exactly what I would prefer because I think that guy definitely knows how to coach football on the defensive side.
Yeah, and to your point, I mean, developing players, he's developed defensive players.
Yeah.
But that's the problem is
offensively, it's a problem.
Offensively, none of these guys like Breece Hall. I mean, look at what he's looked like. I mean, I know all jokes aside with me and Klotz yesterday, like he is very talented, super talented. Just hasn't worked out. Run game looks terrible. And people, and I do think there's some truth to this. The Nathaniel Hackett hire wasn't necessarily all his idea. Like I think he was kind of like, hey, Aaron's here, Nathaniel Hackett, that's his boy. Just kind of deal with it. But that's the thing.
Such a weird situation, though.
But that's the thing. When you're a head coach, responsibility falls on you. So if you know, and I'm sure Robert Saleh is one of those defensive head coaches where he's like, I'm going to worry about the team and the defense. Nathaniel Hackett, you just get the offense for me. Terrible idea because this offense looks neutral. I doubt Saleh's like Dan Campbell. This is why I do give him a lot of credit. He's in on those offensive, like he's speaking to Ben Johnson. Like
he's an offensive-minded head coach. As much as people don't know,
he's very aware of what's going on.
Yeah,
like he knows. Like he's in these. Meetings, he's talking to Ben. He gets it. Like I doubt Robert Saleh was doing that with Nathaniel Hackett. Like
as much as people don't want to give Dan Campbell some credit because of Ben Johnson, like, and shout out Easy, he's in the chat. Like Easy's like, well, Ben leaves, Jared's done. Like as much as you want to give Ben all that credit because Ben's elite. I know Dan didn't when he first was here, and it didn't turn until Ben. But if you hear the conversations coming out of Detroit with media members and as well as like former players that were there, like as all this was going on, like Dan, his offensive mind, and Ben's actually said it. Like Ben's like like a lot of the schemes and everything that we do now is Dan Campbell as well. So like Dan is an offensive minded head coach, and he's helped Ben Johnson. Like Ben has that mind, and Ben is like that level of like, OC.
Absolutely.
But taking away credit from Dan with that, like Dan as well is that high level. And one thing I respect about that, and this is what more NFL head coaches need to do. Like, hey, if you're going into a situation like in New York and Robert Saleh, like the ownership or certain situations are not forcing you, but putting you one way to hire someone that you might not agree with, you just shouldn't take that job. Like, or you should either step up and say something. Like Dan Campbell, that's one thing I love about like Sheila and Dan is Sheila hired Dan, and same with Brad. And they say, Dan, you make your decisions. Like we can have this conversation, and I know him and Brad are on the same wavelength when it comes to players and different things. But like Dan wants to bring a guy in, a coach in, he's bringing his guy in. He's not listening to Sheila to bring him in. Like the ownership has no say, and that's not. I don't think Sheila being like, hey, Dan's like, listen, this is what I'm going to do. Like, you're hiring me to do my job. Let me do this job. And he's done it at an elite level. And he's brought in his own guys. He's fired guys that he doesn't think's worked out. Guys that he's fired has gone on to be interim head coaches. But he wants his guys. And that's the problem with the guy like Robert Saleh, where, oh, Aaron's coming. Let's get Nathaniel Hackett. Even if I don't like him, Woody wants him here. Aaron wants him here. No, dude, your job's on the line. Like sink or swim. Yeah. I would have fired Woody. I would have fired Nathaniel Hackett in the offseason after last season, personally. Like I would have moved on. And like, I know Aaron's coming back, but like last season, even with the quarterbacks you had, it was like there's nothing here.
It was bad.
Yeah. There's nothing here. You should be able to pull something off. So like that's where I lose respect a little bit for some head coaches around the NFL. It's like, dude, you have an opportunity. Step up. Make a decision.
Yeah, I'm open to him coming. Then I think he goes back to the 49ers, honestly. I think that'd be
who's their DC right now?
I don't even care. Just get him out of there.
Steve Wilkes got fired, and he honestly wasn't doing that bad, and their defense looks terrible right now.
Exactly.
Arizona did a second half comeback. Like they need a defensive coordinator for sure.
And he would be the guy. But we'll see. AG is interesting. I just want to say this about AG. I think AG, there's some guys in the NFL, and this goes for both offensive and defensive coordinators. Some guys are just better off being coordinators, and I don't know. I'm not going to say that about AG because I don't know. I mean, you can't just say it before it happens. Maybe he can get his staff right and be like D'Amico. Maybe he gets a great OC. He understands it being around Ben, but I think Saleh's kind of that guy. Like, I think he's better suited as just the DC, and that's okay. I mean, he could still make a lot of money calling plays for defenses, that's okay.
Yeah.
But that's just the reality. Not everyone can be a head coach. It's not for everybody. And Dan Campbell's been a really good job.
I do think though, like Robert Saleh is one of the, as much as some people don't, he's one of the better DCs in the NFL. So like, if there's an opportunity where AG leaves to get a top 5 DC, I feel like it's like you have to do it. You have no choice. It's the same thing. Like say like AG leaves and Mike Vrabel doesn't get a head coaching job next year, which would be a disaster. Mike Vrabel should be a head coach now. He should never got fired from Tennessee. You go after Mike Vrabel as your DC. Like there are guys out there right now to where it's like if they don't get a head coaching job, you go get them.
I think guys, Drew, because I see this comment, Wheezy D, and I'll get to Cartier's comment too. AG go and take Tanner with them. Cartier says AG might be better head coach than DC. I'll tell you one thing. Ben Johnson, and I already made this point, like for Tanner Engstrand, if he wants to have a he's going to get promoted and be an offensive play caller. He already's had interviews. He's learning under Ben Johnson. He's in this offense already. So he's very familiar with it, familiar with the players. He gets it. For him to leave with Ben and not even be able to be the play caller, like that's tough. I don't, unless he just was like, I'm going to go with Ben. But for his career, his best bet, and I've been saying this for months, stay with the Detroit Lions and you get to call plays for this offense.
Yeah. Like,
dude, that's the best. Because again, if AG gets hired somewhere, it's not going to be a good team. So, I mean, what is Tanner going to go call plays for? Let's just say, I'm just throwing a team. Let's just say the Jets, but hypothetically it won't be, but you get what I'm saying. A team that just fires the Jags, like you're going to go call plays for them. Like just stay.
You don't want Trevor? Dude,
Tanner's next up though.
I can almost guarantee you, like I almost want to say 95% sure that if Ben Johnson takes a head coaching job, like if he does, who knows? Maybe Ben just continues to stay. But if Ben leaves after this season, I will guarantee that Tanner Engstrand takes over this play calling. He's the OC. We saw when we were in training camp, we saw him out there with the second string. You have Ben Johnson over with the first team when they're repping things out, calling the plays for the first team and putting in calls and speaking with Jared. And then they sub into it's like they sub in an OC. They're like, Tanner, you're up. And Tanner's just in there calling plays to JG and as well as also the second string. So it's like Tanner's already doing these play calls. They're having him get reps. You can, like, if you're at training camp, and I guess now you can't, but if you were there before, if you like really watch Tanner Engstrand, which we did for one practice, he is calling plays to Jared Goff. He is putting in plays. He is going, like, he is having conversations with JG, JMO. Like, he is hands-on as much as Ben Johnson is with this offense. And he's already had like 2 or 3 offensive coordinator interviews this last offseason. So like he's already interviewed for OC and he decided to stay. And he wants to, I don't know if he got the jobs, but my guess it's like, hey, I want to stay in Detroit, learn from Ben more. Ben's going to leave at the end of the year. Tanner steps in, and you found yourself your next Ben Johnson right there. And he just learned for 2 or 3 years under Ben Johnson. So I think like Lions fans should love the replacement for Ben Johnson. It's like the thing in LA with Sean McVay. Like this man he always has the next man up, just ready to go. And they're learning from each other.
That's called being a good head coach.
Great head coach.
Plan, not for now, but for the future as well. Let's get to
Hey, that's why Dan has the record he does, and Robert Saleh is no longer a head coach.
That's fair. I'm curious to see if your power rankings are fair because it is Top 10 Tuesday.
Wait. Go. Do your segment. You made me do mine the other day. Let's see the Jeff Iafrate segment.
I was going to save it for tomorrow.
The people are looking forward to the key matchups.
Hey, do you trust me?
Oh man.
Do you trust your boy?
I trust you.
All right.
It was really just a joke because you did that to me.
Yeah, I know. I did do that. And you fought through it, so I do give you credit. I will do it tomorrow before the doc joins. Give us some more.
All right, that's fair.
Because hey, it's Tuesday. You guys know Top 10 Tuesday. We give our power rankings.
Yeah.
Last week we yell. Every week we yell at each other. I'm curious what this week is.
Can we all admit this was probably the hardest one of the year because of everything
it was hard. It was hard for me at the end.
The parity in the NFL.
I would say about 6 to 10. It was a little more difficult.
Yeah, the parity in the NFL right now is just like teams dropping, losing. Like I know for sure I left teams off that probably should be in it, and I put teams on that probably have no business. I sat there for 3 hours today, like stressing out.
Yeah. No, I we're gonna see. I'll go first. I'll go first. I'll get through mine.
Hey,
I'll
thank you for the sacrifice.
So yeah, I'll go first. You guys can just roast me or tell me whatever. So let me get some music on real quick. Let me get the tunes on, and then I'll go ahead and break mine down. So
DJ Juicy J.
Jeez. All right, let's go. All right, here's my power ranking list. Let me break this down for you guys real quick. Let me get this lower third out. You guys can see this. Okay.
I just want to say you're a little muffled right now. I cannot hear anything you're saying.
Yeah.
Give it a second. Give it a second. We're good?
You're back.
Yeah.
All right. See? So, my top 10 list, I'll explain. All right. Number 10, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tough loss, huh? Tough loss to the Birds. Tough loss to the Falcons. All right. A team that's I've always kind of had sneaking in my top 10. They had a very impressive win. Primetime Kirk, I was told, had a hell of a performance, 500 yards. Lit them up without Antoine Winfield Jr. And I'll tell you one thing, them Falcons, they're here now. Hey, they're in that division mix now. Buccaneers better stay on point, but I have them at 10. They haven't fell out of the top 10, but I do have the Falcons above them because they better watch out. The Falcons are getting better and better and better. Good defense. Kirk playing well, and they have weapons. Hey, Kyle Pitts
looks. Hey, how many touchdowns does he have? How many touchdowns?
He had a pulse. He didn't have a touchdown.
He was breathing out there.
Yeah, he had a pulse out there. 9
touchdowns on its way.
He'll get 3 next game.
No, 6 to 8, Booner. 6 to 8.
Yeah, 6 to 8.
No, it was 8 to 9.
He won't even get 6.
Okay, moving on. The Buffalo Bills. Yeah, them Bills fell. They did 2 tough losses, but they're still in the top 10. Still a very good team. Still going to win their division, but tough to lose the game they did. They were still in it, even though Josh Allen had a terrible game. But before that game, they got their asses whooped by the Baltimore Ravens. So they're still in the top 10, but they fall a little bit. Number 7, the Commanders. Booner, you've been high on this team. They're very good. They are.
Never too low, to be honest.
My one concern with the Washington Commanders is we've seen this Cliff Kingsbury thing before where they have a great offense, team looks great, and then you get about 9-10 weeks into the season and everything starts falling apart. So I'm just curious how long this can be sustained for the Commanders, but they're very good. So that's 7. Number 6, the Green Bay Packers. Yeah, Jordan Love's back. I mean, the throw to Jaden Reed is just it shouldn't happen. I mean, it was an absolute dot. And Jaden Reed, just a hell of a catch. He's special. Packers are getting better and better. I know it was against the Rams, but you can see they're looking the way they're supposed to look. Now, at number 5, let me get this out the way. I'll put this on screen for you guys. Okay, number 5, the Baltimore Ravens. Yeah, they pulled it out. Honestly, the best game of the weekend. If you guys tuned into Ravens-Bengals, absolutely electric. Baltimore Ravens got the win. Came on a last-minute Derrick Henry run, which maybe some money, made all of us some cash. But I loved it. Ravens, now they're back in the mix. They're top 5. 4, the Houston Texans. They pull it out. They looked very good against the Bills early. And, it kind of fell apart a little bit. But they ended up pulling out the win regardless. Nico Collins went out, and I think, man, the way he's playing right now, he's the best receiver right now playing in the league right now with how he's playing. Leading the league in yards. No one can stop him. And he goes out, offense changes. So it hurt him, but he should be back. So I'm not too worried. They're the 4th best team. Number 3, the Detroit Lions. My top 3 guys haven't really changed. Vikings won, Chiefs won, Lions didn't play. It would be irresponsible of me to alter the list from last week, the top 3 at least. I still think the Chiefs, yes, they don't have Rashee Rice. Yes, they don't have Isaiah Pacheco. But you know what they do have? Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, and Spags. The best DC in football, I was told by Klotzy. And I also see Travis Kelce playing really well now. So I think with this team right now, even with the injuries, Kareem Hunt, they signed off the couch. And he
looks good.
Very good. Booner, very good. You're all
absolutely
good. Correct. Looks very good. And Juju Smith-Schuster comes out and plays well.
I was told Juju's washed when we were like, should we bring him in for DPJ? And everyone's like, no, DPJ could do what Juju would do.
For whatever reason, Juju
a good offense
thrives in Kansas City, but so does a lot of players. That's why you can't bet against Mahomes, Andy Reid, the best DC in football. I'm sticking with them. The Kansas City Chiefs are number 1. And the Vikings, they're number 2, undefeated. I do think this list will change. But right now, you can't deny they're playing good football. And being undefeated, got to give them credit there. So I'm giving them the 2 spot for right now in week 6. So
man hates the Detroit Lions.
They're, yeah, well, I guess that is fair. Absolutely hate them. But yeah, that's my list, fellas. That is my list. Any bone you want to pick? Any bone?
I think I was gonna say I just think the Commanders should be above the Packers. The Commanders right now are better than the Packers.
Ooh, I disagree.
They should be. They're 4-1. Like if they played Sunday, I probably would bet on the Commanders to win.
Yeah, see, I'm the exact opposite. The only legitimate team that the Commanders have played, very good team so far, is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers week 1, and they lost. Like they're like right now, they have played
good football team.
They're a good football team, absolutely. But Green Bay, in my opinion, is much more elite on both sides of the ball right now.
You're speaking for me, Klotz.
I mean, they beat the Bengals and Joe Burrow. They just beat the Browns with Jim Schwartz. They were able to. What did they put up 30 against Jim Schwartz, who you think is one of the better DCs in the NFL? Yeah. So I mean, I'm not gonna. I mean, I think it's like a wishy-washy thing that like they one's 3-2, those 4-1. You could be like, who'd they lose to? I think you could flip-flop it, to be honest. Preference.
Yeah, honestly, the one thing I'll even critique myself. Maybe I'm a little low on the Bucks. Maybe they should be a little higher. But that's really it.
Like the teams that the Packers beat, like the Colts, Titans, and then the Rams with no one on their football team. Like, and then the 2 losses are versus the 2 teams that were actually healthy and good, the Eagles and the Vikings. So it's like the Packers, you can say they're good on both sides of the ball, but anytime they've had a challenge, they've lost. And then they probably should have lost.
They've had Malik Willis for 2 weeks, and then they were down, I think, by almost 20, if not more, against the Vikings, and cut that lead to 2. And that's how Jordan.
But you still lose that game.
You watch Jordan Love coming off injury in the first half compared to second. It's a completely different quarterback, and you see how that offense flows.
But then you look at the Rams game, like the Rams should not have been in that game with all the injuries that they had, and the Rams are almost have an opportunity to win that game at the end. Like that's the thing.
Like, of the LA Rams, though, like they beat the 49ers the week before on the road. They almost beat the Lions.
Still, either way, to your point though, it's like if we're comparing wins, like you're not saying the Packers wins are better. Like that's if your argument is who has better wins, you can't say
full argument.
That was the main argument you said, and you can't say the Packers have better wins than.
No, and I said they have more elite talent. They have a rookie quarterback compared to Jordan Love, head coach, offensive line, wide receivers, defense. Like I like the Packers more.
Got to show up.
Well, it's hard.
They did versus bad teams. All the good teams they've lost to that they've played.
Well, I think the Packers are a better team, and you want to bring up
future.
I think they're better right now. Like if they played right now, I would
give me the Commanders.
Give me the Packers. Yeah.
All right, give me the Commanders.
If they played right now, I think it'd be a good
game.
Jaden
Daniels will cut that defense up.
It's a spot difference. That's why I think it'll be close. It would be definitely close. I'm not saying they're far better. I wouldn't use the term 100 times better, but I do think they're. No,
I didn't say that. I said that yesterday. That was a comment I made yesterday.
I'm joking. I'm trolling you. I'll admit I'm trolling.
Don't put words in my mouth now, Jeff Iafrate.
I love bringing that up, but that's my list. I get the disagreements there.
A lot of people.
No one.
A lot of people.
It's funny.
A lot of people.
That's fine.
This is a weird thing. A lot of people saying the Commanders. Just saying.
Well, I'm saying the Packers. So that's where I'm going. I'm saying the Packers. And I didn't think I thought someone would bring up the Falcons, but this is why.
Well, let's see other people's lists before you bring it up.
No one said a peep about the Vikings or the Falcons being top 10. Huh?
Let's do other lists before we bring it up.
All right, let's get to one of your guys' lists. Who wants to go?
I'll go just because the team we had number 1. I think it's only fitting. Quick reality check. All right, so this is my top 10. As you see, Jeff, as you mentioned, those dirty birds down Atlanta, they're number 10. And they weren't on the list. They're right outside. They're on the bubble last week. So when you look at the Falcons right now, I think the whole reason why they're starting off slower is just because they have a new quarterback. I think when you look at them, they're going to keep getting better each week. And I think that they are going to be a wild card team, if not win that division. At number 9, I have the Buffalo Bills. I understand there's no Khalil Shakir. I understand that Josh Allen had the best or the worst game of his career. But I think when you look at it, you saw last week, like defensively and offensively, the injuries are getting to them. Even guys like Dalton Kincaid who are out there are not producing. If Keon Coleman doesn't break a tackle, that team does not score through the air whatsoever. I think James Cook is good. I think Josh Allen's good. I think they're going to go back through the rankings, but right now they're just too beat up. They'll be higher. They're going to win that division like Jeff said. And number 8, the Baltimore Ravens. I understand people want to slow them up there, but when I watch the Baltimore Ravens, that offense had no rhythm. Like Lamar Jackson was making great plays, but when you look at how you have to win games in the NFL, defensively, the Baltimore Ravens, that's always been their identity. Their defense sucks this year. Secondary, out of the equation. Kyle Hamilton's the only thing there. So that's why I'm not willing to put them at the top 5 team right now. Their defense is atrocious. And then when you look at it through the air, Lamar Jackson, when it comes to making simple throws in tight coverage, he just cannot do that. And then on the back end, they kind of refuse to hand the ball to Derrick Henry from time to time. So I think they're lacking their identity. Again, I understand they just had a good win, but look at that Bengals defense. It is terrible. It is terrible. The Bengals right now, outside of their offense, are bad, even when it comes to defense and special teams. If Evan McPherson can hit a kick, if the holder can do it, they're losing to a 1-4 team, which nobody had it on power rankings, and this is where they'd be at. So Ravens, they get the win, but when you look at where they should be at, this is not the Baltimore Ravens that I think people expected. Washington Commanders are at 7. I think Jeff had them in the same spot. I think they're very good right now. I think the only thing that keeps me from putting them into the upper echelon of teams is that they do have a rookie quarterback. It is the Cliff Kingsbury effect. I think that Washington, they're going to stall out a little bit, but I think they definitely have a chance of winning the NFC East. I like them a lot. Jaden Daniels right now, without a doubt, rookie of the year so far. Number 6, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I understand that they just lost on the road to the Falcons, but I still really like what this football team has. I think when you look at it, they're the most talented team in the NFC South. I think when you look at how they won the division, I really like Todd Bowles. They just had a down week. Offensively, they were still very good. But Kirk Cousins just had a night. It was Atlanta. They got hot. That's probably going to be Atlanta's best game of the year. And that's not even like a throwaway. No, like Kirk Cousins threw for 500 fucking yards. That's a great game. And I just think coming off a bye, they got smacked in the mouth. Number 5 is the Green Bay Packers. I think when you look at this team, and if you notice, there's 3 NFC North teams in the top 5 here for me. So I think the Green Bay Packers, they're going to be very good. Jordan Love is finding himself more. Josh Jacobs, he's not the best running back in the world, but he knows how to just keep chunk yardage at times to keep Jordan Love in good situations. And Jordan Love and Jaden Reed, that's one of the best combinations in football right now. Xavier McKinney, I understand, Booner, like what you were saying right now with the Rams, and it's a close game, but that's what the Rams just do. Going on the road, Jordan Love, he needed to get that game going. I think this offense is going to stay in rhythm. They didn't have Christian Watson, but when you look at Dontavion Wicks, Romeo Doubs, even guys like Tucker Kraft is having a year in Green Bay right now. So I think that Jordan Love, this offense is humming, and I like what Matt LaFleur is doing. Now, number 4, because they're not number 1, and I don't really see how people aren't like seeing a little bit of what I'm saying, at least with Iafrate here. The Kansas City Chiefs are number 4 right now. Are they still a top 5 football team? Absolutely. And you know why? Because of Jeff's point. They have Andy Reid. They have Patrick Mahomes. They have Steve Spagnuolo. They have Chris Jones. But when you look at what this Chiefs team is, this is a team that is not in rhythm. Like, I understand Kareem Hunt just went off, but Chiefs are number 1 for me. I think if you have every team like that we put in the number 1 right now, like the Minnesota Vikings, if they lost Justin Jefferson and Aaron Jones, they would not be your number 1 team anymore. The Kansas City Chiefs lost their wide receiver 1. Rashee Rice was having a top 5 wide receiver season. Isaiah Pacheco is a top 10 running back in the NFL, arguably. So if you look at that, yes, they're undefeated, but I think they lose to the Houston Texans. I think they lose to the Detroit Lions, and I think they lose to the Minnesota Vikings right now. The Chiefs will keep climbing, but I do think you have to take injuries into effect, and I don't think they beat any team. This was the first game that they won that was not 1 score. So I like what they're doing. They're finding a way to win with key players out, but that does not make you the number 1 team in football, in my opinion, because they're teams that are finding a way to win, that are fully healthy, and look very good as well. Now, Houston Texans, they don't look that good, but I think when you look at it, Joe Mixon.
I'm sorry.
Joe Mixon, he's been out. He's going to be coming back soon. Nico Collins is playing like the best wide receiver in football, and they're 3 deep. And I think C.J. Stroud's a younger quarterback who's going to find a way. They look like they're finding the rhythm. Offensively, they keep a way to find it going. And then when you look at the defense, DeMeco Ryans' defense is DeMeco Ryans' defense. They found a way to neutralize Josh Allen. They convinced him to have the worst game of his career and did not show up whatsoever. Their defense is suffocating. And I think when you have a good defense and a quarterback like CJ Stroud, I think they beat teams like the Green Bay Packers. I think they beat like the Kansas City Chiefs. I think the Houston Texans defense steps up when needed to, and seeing you have CJ Stroud, there's not going to be very many problems. Detroit Lions and Minnesota Vikings, I kept the same. Detroit Lions are on a bye. Minnesota Vikings got a gritty win over in Tottenham. Good win. It's not something that I'm like, because it's Sam Darnold. He didn't have his best game. But when you look at what they did, they were up at halftime. It was a pretty dominating fashion. Aaron Rodgers looked like a ghost of himself. So Minnesota Vikings were won last week, and they're going to stay there.
I have a bone to pick. Okay, and it's not that you have the Vikings won. Well, I disagree with that, but it's not like egregious. Lions 2, not egregious, but the Chiefs 4 is egregious. This is my issue, and I'll tell you this, Klotz, and I do want your actual opinion on this. The Texans are 3; they're ahead of the Chiefs. When you look at the Texans, they have one loss, was an absolute blowout. All 4 wins have been by 1 score. They beat the Colts by 1 score, Bears by 1 score, Jags by 1 score, Buffalo by 1 score. So you bring up the Chiefs and their 1-score games. Texans done it too. And I would argue the Chiefs beating the Ravens, Bengals, Falcons are more impressive. Am I wrong? And they're undefeated. They haven't lost.
I would say absolutely, but in all those games, they had Isaiah Pacheco and Rashee Rice. If you ask me who's going to win this Sunday, the Houston Texans or the Kansas City Chiefs, I'm taking the Houston Texans.
Even if Nico Collins doesn't play.
Because if Nico Collins doesn't play, that's fine because you still have CJ Stroud. When you have DeMeco Ryans' defense, I think he's capable of holding that Kansas
That's your wide receiver 1.
What?
That's their wide receiver 1. That's their best offensive player.
Can I please explain myself?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so let's get my point across. When you have DeMeco Ryans, when you look at that Kansas City Chiefs offense right now, the wide receiver, you guys literally said it. The wide receiver 1 is Juju Smith-Schuster, and they have Kareem Hunt. That offense is not scoring more than 20 points. I think with CJ Stroud, Joe Mixon is most likely coming back this week. You still have Stephon Diggs, and you still have Tank Dell. I think that offense, with the way that they're being coached on offense with the offensive coordinator, they score more than the Chiefs. Plain and simple. Now, if we're talking about in week 10, week 11, this conversation could be different when Isaiah Pacheco's back and they get more of these players back. But right now, the Chiefs are banged up. And they have not had very good wins against solid teams without Rashee Rice and Isaiah Pacheco. If they were to go play the Detroit Lions right now and they beat the Detroit Lions, they'd be number 1. But I don't think that's a possibility.
To be fair,
the Minnesota Vikings right now and beat the Minnesota Vikings, they'd be 1. But I don't see that happening right now. They're banged up, and I think offensively they're limited right now.
To be fair, though, with the Texans Chiefs thing, it's the Chiefs only played it's not like they didn't have an opportunity with these guys out to play one of these best teams. And the 2 teams they played since these guys are out, they've dominated both games and they won. They won yesterday 26-13.
That was not a dominating game.
I mean, they won the football game, and even as bad as Patrick Mahomes played at times, they still won 26-13. You said they can't score 20 points. They scored 26 versus Saints, and then you flip it around and you're like, all right, well, are the Texans going to give up 20 points to the Chiefs? Yeah, the Chiefs will score 20 against the Texans. The Texans just gave up 20 to a Bills team who scored 3 in the first half, knocked out Josh Allen with no Khalil Shakir, and it's just a beaten up Bills team, and they still gave up 20. Hold on, I let you talk. This Texans defense has not been what people have thought they were going to be instantly. They've been decent, but they're not a team where you're like, oh, they're going to not give up 20 points. No, the Chiefs are 4 or 5-0, and to the point, and the reason I apologize for laughing earlier, but you went into the whole spiel about how the Chiefs are winning these close games and this and that, and then you flip to the Texans and be like, well, they have a 1 loss, but they're winning close games. But it's just the kind of contradicted itself with that, because the Chiefs and the Texans are in similar spots to where they're both winning 1-possession games and sneaking by, except the Texans, when they played a good team, they lost, and the Chiefs didn't when they played the Bengals or the Ravens or the Falcons. They found a way to pull those off. The Texans couldn't. So and as well as the Texans do have injuries too. So the Chiefs right now, as much as you might hate them, and you'll see my list, I know I can't say the Lions were the number 1 team in football. The Chiefs, you're well, they have Spags, they have Andy Reid, they have Mahomes, they have Travis Kelce, they have Chris Jones. That's why they're the number 1 team in football, because they have those guys. They're 5-0, and even when they're playing a bad game, they're still winning games. Think about how bad they've played in some of these 5 games, and there's no one that's been able to beat them. Imagine tomorrow if it clicks a little more. It clicked yesterday with Juju Smith. They clicked with some of those guys. As this thing gets going, dude, they're 5-0. They're the best team in football right now because they play bad football and they still, you're like, and you're sitting in the game, you're like, do you really think they're going to lose today? No. Like, I didn't think there was a chance yesterday the Saints were going to actually end up winning. Like, there was not a time where I'm like, Saints are going to win this game. Never. Like, I never. The defense was suffocating Derek Carr. Derek Carr's hurt. They hurt Derek Carr. Derek Carr's, I think he's in like the hospital right now.
It's Derek Carr, Dennis Allen on the road in Arrowhead. They're a top 5 team. That's what they're supposed to do to teams like this game. If you go down the game.
So we can't put them at number 1 until they play another team later on. Got it.
Like I said at the beginning of my whole spiel, when Jeff brought up the games, I said, yes, absolutely. But who did they have? Isaiah Pacheco and Rashee Rice. They didn't have either of those guys last week. In fact, they did have Rashee Rice, and they beat the Chargers on the road by 7.
They found a way. The Chargers aren't that bad of a foot. You're making the Chargers seem to be a top bottom 5 team. The Chargers are.
Why they're at 4,
you had them in your top 10 at one point this year.
Yes, and that was for about a week or 2. Now we're 2 weeks later, and a lot of things changed.
You thought they were a decent. You thought they were a top 10 team going into the week of playing the Chiefs. I'm pretty sure going into that week you had them top 10.
Justin Herbert is now hurt. Okay,
but he wasn't when they played the Chiefs. When they played the Chiefs, he was not hurt. He played.
And they had Rashee Rice. Okay, now back to what I was saying.
And they won. They won. Did they lose? Sorry.
So we're talking about
alternate universe. They lost.
We're talking about, or I'm
alternate universe. They lost. Okay, that's
I'm
tough.
trying to get the point across about my list. They played the Saints and the Chargers. Those are 2 meh teams. If you're going, Booner, who wins this Sunday?
Dude, they won. If the Lions just win games, if the Lions are like 7-1, but they play average teams and they only win by possession, you're going to be like, yeah, I'm going to put them at 5. Like they can't.
If they don't have Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jameer Gibbs,
but they're still finding a way to win. But they're still winning.
But that does not make them the best team in football. They're without 2 of their best.
Oh my gosh, dude! I've seen teams win Super Bowls without some of their better players. It's happened. It's there's a crazy concept where it's like you can win games and be a good team without a big time player.
They're number 4.
They're not better than they're not worse than the Texans.
Booner, the Detroit Lions, the Kansas City Chiefs play this Sunday. Who's winning the game?
The Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah.
Oh no, the Detroit Lions. I'm sorry. I thought you said the Texans.
So then the Chiefs should not be.
That's a great team. That's the best matchup in the NFL. That's the number 1 team versus the number 2 team.
So who wins though?
I don't know what the spread would be. I do not know. I think it would probably depending on who. I have them as my 1 and 2 team. Depending on if it's a home or away game, I could give you a spread for it. I don't know who would win. It would be a great football game. As a Lions fan, I would say the Lions. That's not a good argument for you to use because I'm a Lions fan, so I would always say the Lions. But if we're looking at spread or anything, if it's in Kansas City, the Chiefs are probably favorites. In Detroit, I'm guessing the Lions are favorites. Like it's that. I think they're 1 and 2.
Yeah.
It's not that crazy of a concept. Like it's not. And then you have the Vikings at 1. Yesterday, you were saying though the Vikings were like a fraud team. We had the conversation. Our whole show had the conversation.
Yeah, but I have them high too.
I have them high, but they're not number 1. They're not the best team in football.
You're putting the big picture. You're acting like I'm saying the Kansas City Chiefs cannot contend for a Super Bowl because in week 6 they're hurt. The Minnesota Vikings right now are the hottest team in football. Right now, Sam Darnold is still playing like a really good quarterback. He's not going to all year. And they still have Justin Jefferson. They still have Rashee Rice. They have Jordan Addison coming off injury, and he looked good. First game back, 2 touchdowns. And then defensively, they happen to be right now playing like the best defensive team in football. I would put money that Brian Flores defense would give Mahomes trouble, absolutely, even with all that star.
And like the Bucks still at 6 really irks me too. And I was a Bucks guy. I'm a Bucks guy. I think they win that division. But having them, like the Bucks just lost to the Falcons, and the Falcons they're both 3 and 2, and they won the head-to-head match. I don't care if it was OT or like that. That's crazy to me. Jeff, I'll stick up for you on that one. You're welcome.
You know what?
Bucks should be at the bottom of this list.
Yeah, I would probably swap the. I think the Baltimore Ravens should be higher, but if you want to just keep them like in the back end, I would probably swap Ravens Bucks.
I think the Buccaneers.
Yeah.
They would not.
That's where
the Ravens would not be able to run the ball like they wanted to. Zay Flowers is not a true wide receiver 1. Mark Andrews is down right now. Like the Ravens right now are figuring a lot of things out.
But like Klotz, to your point, I don't mean to like keep this thing going, but to your point, like with the Ravens, you're like, what are teams doing now? What are they like? They've won 3 straight football games, and they in big fashion too. Like the Ravens are a good football team. Like they should be top 5 to that argument.
No, they should not. they should not be top 5. And I explained it's because right now, defensively,
you said literally, like, we're talking about now, like, they've won 3 straight football games. We're not talking week 2. We're not talking week 10. We're talking week 5. They've won 3 straight, and they've dominated with Derrick Henry's added another level to that offense.
Okay, now, like I said, defensively, they are bad. I said because of how bad they are defensively, I am not putting them in my top 5. They're not getting the quarterback like they used to. Their secondary used to be a strength of their team because they were so deep in the secondary, and they're getting cooked. They can't stop a nosebleed defensively. So for that reason, and because Zay Flowers not a true wide receiver 1, no, they're not a top 5 team.
Crazy, dude. I mean, that might – dude, listen, they beat the Bengals with Joe Burrow playing at his best. The Bills, a 3-2 Bills team that were at the time 3-0. They beat the Bills. They beat the Cowboys. They lost a 1-possession game to the Raiders, and they were literally a toe away from beating the Kansas City Chiefs. Like, this team could be 4-1 with the Chiefs win. This is a good football team. Like,
yeah, that's why they're in my top 10.
They're better than the Bucks, Commanders,
I guess that's where and by the way, let's move on to Booner's list because this is where we feel differently about teams. We'll see how this, because I think
that was thrilling.
If the Ravens and Packers like faced today, I'm going Ravens over the Packers.
Oh,
but that's just
yeah, for sure.
That's just my opinion. You think the Packers would win that game? So we'll get to Booner's list now. You guys just bickering like an old couple. Love it. That's why I was telling the chat we should call this Toxic Top 10 Tuesday. Maybe Toxic Top 10 Tuesday. A lot of bickering.
I mean, and with all due respect, Klotz, you know I love you. I'm starting to get a feeling with your list. I said it last week. The shuffle button just gets hit, and like you pick your top 10 teams out, and you go, boom.
No, it's just because we look at the game of football differently.
Which is fair.
Shuffle's disrespectful. It's not.
No, it's not. It's a fun.
You literally
said
show. Last week it was. I'm sorry for that.
All right,
it's a joke.
Let's see if Booner shuffled his list. Huh?
I shuffle my list too. I literally.
Oh, he did, because the Lions aren't one, and they didn't play.
I shuffled my list. I shuffled my list. All right, let me talk about this, boys. So number 2, I'll go quick through it too, because we all already explained and we've already had the conversation.
Yeah.
So it's not much. I dropped the Bucks down. I think I had them at 6 last week. I just dropped them down to 10. The Falcons, like, as much as I like Jeff, I've been against your Falcons thing because I think the Bucks are still the best team in that division. They had a head-to-head matchup, and I have them higher than you. Yeah, I do. You have a head-to-head matchup, and I think as they're starting to get going, they're starting to play better. I think both of these teams make it in the playoffs. I still think the Bucks are going to find a way to win the division with the team they have. But as of now, losing to the Falcons, if I think they're a pretty close team, I'm going to put the Falcons ahead of them because they did beat them. So I have to, you have to respect that a little bit. 9, I have the Bills. I dropped the Bills down. Losing 2 straight, not great. They're still a top 10 team in the NFL. Like, they've lost these games. Like, they've started the first halves off so bad, and now they're just in those last 2 games. And now you're just sitting there fighting back, and versus the Texans and the Ravens both. And those are 2 good teams to where, like, you can't go down as much as you do versus those teams in the first half and expect to win those games. So they're slow starts. If they figure these slow starts out, they'll be good. Number 7, the Packers. I don't think any of us had the Packers in our top 10 last week. So I threw them up to 7. I think that's just, they're winning games. They found a way. 3-2. They're a good football team with Jordan Love back. They're going to keep getting better and better and better. I think they're a good football team. It's the same thing with the Washington Commanders at 6. I already spoke about it with you guys. I don't really have much to say. Jaden Daniels.
No. Let's just get to it.
Well, no, I mean, I just think 6 and 7 can be interchangeable. Like, I don't think it's something for us to have this big argument about. I think it's an interchangeable thing.
Not even that.
What?
You're on the stand. Why did the Lions drop?
Oh, well, let me get to that. I'm going to get to that. You didn't even let me finish my list. Let me finish my list. Let me finish my list. I let you finish. I let Klotz finish, and then I hopped in. Let me talk. I have to stand now. Sit back and watch me, Jeff Iafrate. Number 5, the Baltimore Ravens. Listen, 3 straight wins. The defense, Klotz, I understand that, but they're winning football games at a higher level. Like, the last 3 wins they've had and the way the offense is playing is unbelievable. The way Lamar, he misses some throws sometimes here and there, and he's just making plays. But now Derrick Henry on that offense is an absolute cheat code. Like, it is a cheat code. And the teams that they've beat and then almost beating the Chiefs, they could be sitting there at 4-1, and you could be arguing if that toe isn't on the line, you're probably arguing the Baltimore Ravens is the top 3 team right now, which would be crazy. But so I respect that. I look at the wins, how it happened, put them at 5. The Houston Texans, complete respect for them, 4-1. But again, it's borderline. You're like they're in and out. Their defense is struggling a little bit. Things are happening. You're like, what's going on? Nico goes down. They're still a top 5 team with all respect, due respect. But I have them at 4. And then the Vikings. Listen, Vikings are playing good football. I don't think this is I think it's just like a good job, Kevin O'Connell. Hey, Kevin O'Connell, you're doing something special here. Everyone, Klotz, clap it up. I know you're sad over there. Clap it up for Boone. Clap it up for Kevin O'Connell. He's doing something over there. I respect it. I'll put him in my top 3. I don't think this stands a leg. Nothing. Now here, 2-1. And this is where my mindset went, guys. I still think the Detroit Lions have the best offense in the NFL as a whole. I don't know what to do, and this is me being honest with you guys. Jeff, you want me to be honest, right? Why they're at with you? This might just sound dumb to some people. I don't know what to do with teams on a bye week. I don't. I'm just being honest. You have a Kansas City Chiefs team who won another football game, and I know the Vikings. I just think the Lions. I think the Lions are just better than the Vikings as a whole, roster-wise. So I just separated them instantly. But with the Chiefs and all the pieces they have, and the coaches they have, and any week the Chiefs can win a football game, and I would bet on them to win a football game. Think they're the best team in football as well. So them at 5-0, I said, all right, off a bye week. Listen, no, off a bye week, the Chiefs continue to dominate. They did. They're 5-0. Just like I have the Vikings at 3 because they dominate and they're 5-0. Respect. Shout out Kevin O'Connell. Listen. You know what this is? Do you want me to be honest with you guys here?
Yeah. No, please.
This is motivation.
I hope you're honest.
Because I've reached out to Dan Campbell. I said, Dan, I have a plan, and he said, what, Booner? We need the guys to be motivated coming off the bye. Dallas, all of that, the revenge game, the reps. Jerry Jones, Jerry's World, CeeDee Lamb, Dak. I said, Dan, I need to find a way to motivate these guys. He said, Booner, what do you have in mind? I'm gonna bump them down off the pedestal, Dan. I'm gonna put them at number 2. I want to motivate these guys. It's all part of the Booner path. It's all a part of hey, how do we motivate these guys to keep? Hey, let's keep our heads level-headed. This is part of it. Make them go out there. The Detroit Lions win on Sunday. They're right back at 1. As soon as they win on Sunday, I'll put out a tweet. Detroit Lions, number 1 team in football. Instantly. I don't care if it's by 1 point, if it's by 30 points. Detroit Lions, as soon as they get that next win versus the Cowboys, boom, number 1 team in Booner's power rankings. So it's no disrespect. The Booner path is not over. This is just part of the path. This is what we have to do to get there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's cute, but or you could just say, you know what, guys, should have had him 1 last week.
I just don't like it's hard.
You needed a win against the Saints, really, to prove.
No, well, I know. Well, hear me out. I've been very, and you know this. I've been very consistent with saying the Detroit Lions and the Kansas City Chiefs are the 2 best teams in football, and then there's the rest. Have I not been consistent all year on that?
You've been saying that, yeah.
So I have. One team played, one team did it, and I was just like, all right, I'll give a little bit of I'll respect the Chiefs a little bit. I'll give them 1 for the week because they played football and we hung out. Hey, the fellas had a grill out. Jared Goff celebrated his 30th birthday. The guys are having a good time. What are we doing here? Next week we go get a win. We're back on the top of the hill. That's all.
All right, that's fair.
Booner Path, listen. If you're right now, I'm going to tell you guys this too. And Klotzy, I need you to come out of being mad at me for a second. As the Booner Path with CPO, we don't question the Booner Path. People in the chat right now question the Booner Path. I question if you're a part of it. You no question the Booner Path. All right, no questioning it. I want people to start dropping in the chat right now. The Booner Path. Let's go. Pump it up a little bit. This is part of it. Super Bowl or die. Super Bowl or die.
You know what? Another great week. Toxic Top 10 Tuesday. Very toxic. I love it. Yeah. Arguing over mid. I mean, that's basically what we're arguing about, over mid. But hey, great. I put a little poll up with the best list. Should have added nobody. So you guys can just, if you hate all our lists, there's an option. But I didn't. It's me, Lukas, or Booner. You can vote.
God, it's like right as fuck.
But yeah, we'll see. I don't know. Very and that's why I love these days, because you get to see things like Booner just casually slide the Chiefs to 1, kind of interesting.
I texted you earlier. I was like, I honestly, I was like, I don't know what to do because they're 5-0. The Chiefs, I felt like they're a really good football team. I've always said the Chiefs and the Lions 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, 1-2. It might interchange all week, but guess what? The Super Bowl matchup this year will be the Chiefs and Lions.
Yeah, well, I do agree. I do agree with that. I do agree with that. Prince says best segment of the week.
Shout out.
Yeah, it's just yeah, very, very, very toxic. Very, very toxic. But hey, I'm leading the polls currently. May or may not be fake polls. Because I think everyone hated all of our lists, so I'll just go ahead and
I can't see the polls. I don't know how to see it.
You know, it's like I won, but did I win? You know what I mean? At what cost? Like, I don't think I actually won anything. I think all of our lists stink. Yeah,
it was tough because it was such the parody this week was crazy.
Fake news. All right,
I'm gonna go vote for you, Jeff. Hold on.
I already got rid of the list.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, you stopped it early. I was on my way up to winning. I was at third. That's ridiculous. Look at Derek Lash. Didn't even get the vote.
Re-poll. Yeah. Botted votes. Streams only's right. It was botted votes.
He as soon as he saw there was like, how many votes was there? Probably like 10.
I had a lot of all
20 votes total. I mean,
yeah, a lot of burners.
Dude, we have 160 people watching.
I just wanted to end it while I was in the lead. Don't forget, guys, like the stream. Continue to support the channel. You can get your merchandise, officialctsports.com. We'll be back tomorrow. Macaroon joining the show. John Macaroon Wednesdays, the doc.
Shout out Chris, too.
Yeah. And shout out Chris, man. Please go check out his stuff. Appreciate it for joining. It's always great talking to him. We'll be back tomorrow. Appreciate all you guys, man. You guys make it happen for us, and we're so thankful for you. I mean, seriously. I had a guy come up to me. I was at the mall, came right up to me. Hey, his name is Malik. Very nice guy. Cool ass dude. He was like, hey, man, watch the show. Big fan. I said, you know what, Malik? You're the GOAT. So appreciate guys. Just the interactions, man. It's amazing. It's awesome.
By the way, my mom texted me today. My parents had like a scam call, and it was someone trying to sell someone with houses. And I guess my stepdad got to talking to the guy, and the previous place that we were at got brought up, and they were a fan of our show. A scam caller on the random call, and somehow Sport Lions got brought up. And so shout out whoever that was if they're watching right now.
No, don't scam. Who?
No, not like a scam, but it was like a spam call. Like it was a spam, like selling something. Yeah, scam. I guess. Sorry, my bad. Spam.
I was saying, no, we don't provide.
Like, a random spam caller watches our show that they didn't even know, unless they just know my parents' number or somehow. That's crazy. Maybe that is kind of, now I'm thinking about it. My mom texted me. Was like,
he called your parents' number. Now he knows that.
No, they knew. They were talking about me. They were talking about me and the former show I was on. And they were like, I loved that show. And they watched the new show. So now I'm like trying to think. I'm like, I don't know if that's supposed to be like sketchy or not.
Was his name Chad by any chance? Was his name Chad?
Yeah, that would be crazy.
Double confirm that. Hey, appreciate you guys. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
Love you guys.
Spam call and Malik as well. We'll catch you. See you.
Peace.